haven't resubscribed in long enough, and so I have to see an ad for Bombay Sapphire.
I suppose
it's like it knows I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my drink of choice.
I do like Bombay Sapphire.
Although I bought some vodka and Kahlua.
So I think, and maybe this will be preamble to the podcast. Maybe it'll be cut out, but Bombay is really great for G&T.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that great for like a dry gin martini.
Sure.
So of the affordable, accessible gins, it's Sapphire, G&T, and then Tanqueray 10 for a dry martini.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are my like staple. I can access them.
Because Bombay feels smoother.
Yeah, but it's got the botanicals, right?
Yeah.
It's got a quite like the botanicals are really forward, which is why I really like it in G&T, because the tonic isn't doing it's doing something and it's very stable. While depending on what fucking vermouth people use, that can go real wild with the botanicals. While like the Tanqueray 10 is like it's a reserved but very tasty gin. So when you put that with a vermouth that's like lively, it doesn't get in the way. So the more interesting the vermouth, the more the Tank 10 interacts with it in a positive way, while it's kind of the inverse with the Bombay.
Okay, cool.
Tanqueray is also stronger. It's 43% as opposed to Tanqueray's.
Bombay's got like 37, right?
Yeah, I think it's 37, 38, whereas Tanqueray's a bit more.
Okay.
Anyway, this is a beer podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, I was waiting for this to happen.
Let's get going.
I've just gone super deep into gin.
We're not going to talk about gin. Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast all about video games and beer. We're not going to talk about gin because we've already talked about it. There you go. Gin corner, gin beginning, gin start. It's episode 428, and this is our end of year show, and it has started how it will continue on a tangent, more likely. A bit of a bigger episode for you, as our end of year shows tend to be. I'm Ben, here with Lucy.
Hi, Ben. It's been a fabulous year with the both of you, as always.
Oh, thank you.
I'll say this at the start of the show, because we usually say it at the end, but, as always, always a pleasure, never a chore.
Brilliant, good. And that's also a deal.
Hey!
Should we open some beers and get cracking?
Yeah, let's get cracking. We're all completely sober up until this point on this Thursday afternoon, post-turn time.
Exactly. I'm going to start with a beer. I'm going to open a beer from Deya. This beer looks a bit odd. It is the Steady Rolling Strata Double IPA, so it's an 8% beer. I think it's a collaboration with Lothran Brewers, but it says Lothran Brewers Select. A double dose of the freshest crop year 2024 Strata from Indie Hops, pushing the boundaries of fresh hop aroma delivery. There isn't much more flavour text than that, but that's the can.
Yes.
You can see the other
something I'm well acquainted with. Yeah.
I know you guys have spoken about it, and I haven't had it. So when I saw it, I'm like, that one, I'll have that, thanks.
But it's the fresh wet hops, isn't it? So it was canned a few months ago?
It was canned in October, the 22nd of October.
Yes. Yeah. So I had it around then, so I'm wondering how those takes will have developed.
Yep.
And how you enjoy it.
We shall see momentarily. Adil, what are you drinking first?
I'm going to start with our friends at the Weekend Project have done a pale ale afternoon in Chico, 5.2% ABV. It is our love for beers, born on the Pacific, runs deep, channeling these classic roots with vibrant citrus and pine notes from Citra, Simcoe, Centennial, and Cascade. Crisp and refreshingly bitter. It is has been described to me as their Sierra Nevada knockoff, which I think they know is what it is, because look at this.
Yep. Very green and yellow, yeah.
This is a very Sierra Nevada label, but I have never been disappointed by them. And so I'm curious what their take on this particular entry is. And yeah.
Fair.
So yeah, half liter, 5.2%.
Good. Cool. And Lucy, what are you starting with?
I'm glad Adil's picking up the slack for weekend project, because I had a weekend project here, but because it is a brewery, it's still unopened. Because they're a brewery that we've all discovered this year and have enjoyed. But I'm gonna go something a bit more festive.
Yeah.
This is called Merry and Bright, and local actually, from Attic, in Birmingham, of course. It's a red IPA, 5.4%. I had this on cask. They're doing both cask and keg. At least at the main tap room. I had it last week on cask. Spoilers, it was very good. But it has Mosaic, Idaho 7, Centennial, and Harlequin hops.
Okay.
I wish this had some more flavor text, because it was saying what flavors it evokes, but it was like, kind of like red currant things, sort of like Christmassy kind of fruits and that, and so, but doesn't seem to be on the can, but it was on their board when I ordered it last week. So, but
when
yeah,
it comes
that's what I'm
with tasting
into.
notes to the bar, so they know what the keg or the cask is kind of going in, and on the can it's like, it's a beer.
Yeah, because it's just like fruity 3 out of 5, malty 4 out of 5, bitter 3 out of 5.
Okay.
It's like, cool, but what else?
Yeah.
What else?
But what does that mean?
You'll find out shortly.
Yeah, but it's a red IPA. Whenever I
Nice.
see a red IPA, I'm gonna.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Let's roll through these because we've got some big old games to talk through. This is lovely. I've already had some sips of it. I haven't had a beer for an hour now, so I'm sort of a bit like, where's my next beer?
It's been that long.
It has. But it's got a lovely nose, very bright, a lot of fruit on it. But a bit, it comes across almost a little bit creamy as well in the nose. I don't think it likely doesn't, and is a vegan beer. I would imagine yes, it is. So I would think they're getting it from something like oats, but it doesn't say there's oats in it. The allergens are just barley and wheat. So I don't know how they're getting that slight creaminess on those, whether it's just from the strata hops themselves. But flavour-wise, the sweetness, which is a little bit orange, there's a little bit maybe apricot, bit sort of stone fruit in there as well. On the flavour, that's dulled down very, very slightly. It's not quite as big of a flavour as the nose is. But it's lovely and smooth. It's like really smooth. It's nice and wet. It's incredibly sort of light as well, as a sort of a mouthfeel. But the flavour still has those light stone fruit, a little bit of apricot, maybe a little bit of orange in there in the flavour. But it's kicked in with an incredibly light bitterness, sort of about halfway through that flavour. And that sits quite nicely. It's not a big bitterness. It just sort of mellows the slightly sweeter fruit flavours out a little bit, and is just very, very smooth. Like already, just chugged that first third of the glass kind of down. It's going to go back so incredibly quickly because it's just so smooth.
Smooth operator, yeah. I mean, that's Deya in a nutshell, really. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we had a bit of time last year before maybe, where Deya were trying a few things out, and there were a few sort of misses, I think, with the beers that they were putting out. But I don't think this year I've had a miss from Deya.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
That blip that was like disappointing all three of us feels like it's well and truly gone.
Absolutely.
So like at the Hop Knocker, much of the Strata series has come on tap. And the stuff that hasn't has come in cans, and I've had, I think, most, if not all, of the releases, and they've all just been fucking straight up bangers.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, this is the Deya that I've been talking to other people about.
Yeah, because I'm guessing it probably took a while for a Deya to make the trip up to Durham, Newcastle, Northeast way. So yeah.
Good. let's roll in quickly then with another brewery that we've all enjoyed this year, the Weekend Project. Adil,
Yes.
how's the beer?
So we see their take on the West Coast IPA is nice and clean, sort of ambery color, very transparent. Still quite effervescent, quite a lot of head on the pour. Still a little bit later, few like a minute later, sort of like a thin line on top. Ooh, you get that Citra and the Mosaic right away on that nose. Oh, and a slight bit of pininess. I can't remember what the other hops were. God damn, it's not the right season for what this sort of normally sits with. Oh, I take it back. There is a malty backbone to this taste that I think is much more malt forward than the Sierra Nevada that I was jokingly suggesting that they were aping, which I still think they probably are, but I think it's definitely their own. They're not just trying to carbon copy because this is there's a depth to that finish. So let me have another sip. Yeah, so between the nose and the initial taste, you're getting those Simcoe. I think there's Simcoe in it, right? Oh yeah, Simcoe, Citra, Centennial, and Cascade, right? All of those are coming in, and you're getting this nice hit of a bit of tropical, a lot of citrus, big, juicy flavors. But they kind of hit, and then just after the peak start to fade of the taste, when it's the most strong. And then as they fade, you just notice how much malt there is. And on a few sips, I'm getting much more bitterness than you would normally get. It feels, if I was going to just typify it, I would say it feels more British.
Really?
In the sense of it finishes bitter in a way that lingers, that feels much more like you could get this same type of finish off of something on cask in some pub in some place. While often American beers are either bitter versus this fading bitterness, because it doesn't. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the American beers that are very bitter and have a bitter finish, they tend to just be bitter throughout. And this tastes it hits with this West Coast sort of the lighter notes of the hops forward, and it finishes quite bitter. And only now am I starting to taste there's the lingering sweetness. But that the main part of the finish is oh yeah, bitter beer. But that transition is, I think, more unique to British beers. And it's surprising probably no one. It's excellent. I just wish it was nice out so I could be in the sun drinking.
Nice. Lucy,
depths of winter.
We'll then come to you for the always a favourite, the attic.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna let the cat out of the door for a second whilst you begin.
Yeah. Like a lot of attic beers, I think it's got a bit more of a subtle nose, but getting hints of red wine, red currant, maybe a bit nutty, caramel. I think you can smell the malts coming through. But yeah, you have to really get in there. It's quite subtle. But yeah, it looks like a red IPA. Ruby coloured, just slightly brownish head, but so it looks the part. Smells the part if you get your nose in there. Yeah, it's got a really decent amount of body for, it's 5.4%. I'd probably say most red IPAs are probably, I don't know, I think they're probably going for a bit stronger in the percentage wise, but this has a decent body, so you're getting those, that you talk about malty backbone, Adil. You're getting certainly the malts are coming through on this. but yeah, it's still like I don't know. Would you call this sessionable? Perhaps because it's it's still light and refreshing. Um, it isn't totally malt forward. You're getting a lot of those, like kind of red currant fruits, a bit of berries. So yeah, it's evoking those kind of Christmas tastes. Not being super heavy in terms of body and percentage, and just like a kind of like beer that not quite, oh, this is the last beer that I'm going to sit by a fireside and consume, but more, oh, maybe I could have a few of these on like Christmas Day. It's called Merry and Bright, and I think that's a good kind of like description for it, where it's like bright as in you're still getting a bit of bit of carbonation, making it a bit lighter, and making it a bit more sessionable, which is nice. But yeah, you're still evoking those like kind of very evocative and homely and moorish kind of flavors with nutty malty backbone and red currants, all those Christmas fruits that you'd have in like a Christmas pudding kind of setting. It's bringing all those flavors without being something like, I don't know, a barley wine, which you'd usually go and seek those flavors in. But something that you could just easily session on Christmas Day.
Nice.
It's really good.
Nice.
It was nice on tap and on cask, sorry, and it's just as nice in can.
Good. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's enjoy these then and launch into our games of the year as we each sort of run down the things that we've enjoyed this year. Previous years, we've kind of done categories. We've done top 10s. This year, it's a top 10. Straight top 10s, I think, for all of us this year.
They could be queer.
Okay. All right. Fair. Well, let's start with you then, dude. Let's see where this is going.
Yeah, I definitely invited that fucking response. Oh no! Hold on, let me bring up my list.
Could I list off some
yes,
honourable mentions?
Always honourable mentions first. Yes, of course.
Flapping for whatever he played
I have honourable mentions
other than Magic the Gathering.
You're mean.
Which is the first 5 entries and number 1. I'll just list off some honourable mentions of mine. Cryptmaster. Me and you both played it then. I don't think it lived up to potential. But it's a typing game, so it's good. Home Safety Hotline, spoke about that earlier this year. It's basically like reading through like a bestiary, but cool, eerie vibe, but yeah, it was okay. Death of the Reprobate, which is that Joe Richardson, the guy who makes Renaissance paintings.
Come out last month, November release, early December.
Yeah,
maybe?
recently. Yeah, might be his last game. I'm not sure, but yeah, that kind of Monty Python crude humor kind of stuff. It's great. They're great. Thank Goodness You're Here, which me and Adil spoke about on a pod that you were not on, Ben. It's just the North. It's basically Leeds / Sheffield / Bradford / just Yorkshire. It's probably the funniest game I've played this year.
It's actually top of my it's near the top of my list of I wish I got around to playing it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's short, so it's like
it was
2
just
hours.
It came out in August, and this term has meant surprising no one. I didn't play many games.
You live up north, so you'll get it now.
Yeah.
It's on my wish list.
Yeah.
I'm assuming around Boxing Day I can get it for less than the 11 quid. But even if basically when the New Year clock's over, I'll probably buy it because it will be perfect for. I'm aiming to play it on the flight back to the UK.
Okay.
Oh, that would be great.
Prepare yourself to come back.
A reacclimatization.
Yeah, make sure nobody's sitting next to you, and no, some of the visual imagery in that game is quite striking.
I'll play. Yeah. Hopefully, I get a window seat and I can play, on the Steam Deck.
Or you could play Wilmot Works It Out. That's a very wholesome game, just about doing puzzles. Honorable mention. Wilmot found peace, so we all have hope. Animal Well,
Yeah.
Good Metroidvania. I need more from my Metroidvania other than like exploration and figuring out cool mechanics. May need a little bit of combat in there. The later. Laser Light and the Laser Eyes.
Oh yeah,
Lorelei.
Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. That's on my list.
Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Yeah. Yeah, that broke my brain. My brain overheated, but I do want to go back to it, so I never finished it.
Okay.
And last one is Humanity, which is the kind of 3D
the puzzle
Lemmings puzzle.
Oh, good.
Yeah, made by the people who made like Tetris Effect and stuff. But yeah, I think if I had played that last year when it came out, that probably would have been on my top 10. Well,
Nice.
top
little
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Shibu Inu dog, golden light dog thing. Yeah.
It's genuinely fantastic, the puzzles in it. So yeah, go check that out if you haven't.
Ben, do you have any honorable mentions?
I do. I was going to just shout out 3 games from last year, which I played this year, which would have maybe been in my top 10, which is A Plague Tale Requiem, Jedi Survivor, whatever the fuck that title was called, some elaborate, ridiculous thing, and Alan Wake 2, which I would think if I'd have played that last year on release, it would have been my favorite game. It's a bit of a not cop out, let's say, to not put it in my top 10. It probably is my favorite game that I have played this year. It's a phenomenal game.
So why isn't it in your top 10?
I've limited my top 10 to games from this year.
Because you've actually played games from this year.
I think I played around about 25 games that had released like this year.
So listeners, normally we just talk about our favorite games we happen to have played. But Ben is probably the most on top of, especially mainstream games. Lucy plays all the games. A lot of indie ones. And I play nothing.
You play what you play when you play.
Yes.
Yeah, to be honest, I played about 30 games this year, and that was way up from last year. So, and these
you've been on a bit of it because in previous years it's been like of the 50 plus games I've played, what the fuck am I doing? I will give 2.5 shout outs. So Lucy gave me the heads up on Slice and Dice, and I had a good weekend playing it, and then I came back to it a couple times in the year, and it was good.
Cool. Glad you played it because I didn't.
Yeah, you gave me the heads up.
Good.
Yeah. It kind of did what I wanted out of these types of games. It had like really short playtime. It did. I mean, it's basically tactical roguelike dice rolling, and it really like puts the aesthetic is very much like here are the dice, and it's like it's nice, and it was fun, and it meant it was the type of thing that when I got the heads up and I could play like short chunks, I could. But I believe I say that, but my most time played in a session was the first time I played, where I just played the like short campaign, sort of a run all the way through, and then won. And my biggest complaint about the game was it felt like I should not be able to win right away given the mechanics. And so I beat the thing, and I was like, well, what do I get on loop backs? In the sense of it's not got these like it's not like Hades or another roguelike where you like build up. It's mostly it felt like it was a knowledge based build up, and I just like through lucky rolls and a decent little build that I like happened to stumble upon, kind of just like had it work. And then it was like, I don't have a huge incentive, even though I have like 45 minutes to play a game, to come back to this because I feel like I figured bits out. So that's why it's an honorable mention. Mildly controversial honorable mention is Super Mario Wonder.
No, I don't think that should be on there at all. So
that's
it's
why
not
I said mildly controversial. And it's almost entirely based on so I will double slash that with Duck Game. Or Goose Game, sorry. Because that same night when Keith, my housemate at the time, who had not played new games in a long time, we played both of those in like a weekend or like a week or whatever, and playing the Untitled Goose Game with another person who's like not used to modern games and definitely not their reverence was glorious. But also, we got a good night out of Super Mario Wonder. It's definitely not worth the purchase price on that, but playing with someone who hadn't played a modern Mario game was super interesting.
Yeah, fair.
Because his instincts were not the same as mine, and so the act of playing it with him was really interesting. And as far as playing a video game with someone else in a room, which is very rare, great. So honorable mention. And my half mention is the capes, because I still haven't got around to fucking playing.
Keith was the honorable mention, yeah.
Keith was the honorable mention, yeah. Not that game. I forgot that came out this year.
What is the half?
The half is capes, because I owe them a review, and it's been like 8 months.
It's mentioned now. We can put it in as the listing. We've talked about it. There we go. It's done. We've got coverage of it.
This one episode.
Capes covered as part of top 10. I feel really guilty, but to be honest, like part of this is the ADHD and the like time is either now or not now, and it's like it's so fucking far overdue. It kind of doesn't matter when I look at it, which is not correct, but like. So I'm going to shout out Capes. We got the code. We're not abusing the code because no one has started the game.
I've got one more Locomotive, which was a point-and-click adventure game, sort of like Lucas art style.
Again,
really
only like
animation.
last month.
Yeah. So I haven't finished it. I've started it. Just haven't finished it, but. Yeah, it's great so far.
Interesting. My top 10's got a bunch of games in that I haven't finished, but they're kind of games that you don't really finish. So we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later. But let's kick off then.
Finish.
Let's start. Oh, go on.
It finishes you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Your morale.
Let's begin then with our number 10s. We'll try and roll through maybe the first 5 of our lists quite swiftly, unless there's anything that we want to highlight specifically or anything we haven't maybe talked about previously. But Deya, we want to start with you, as you invited the opening.
Yeah, my number 10 is a little game called Strands.
Oh, okay.
Is that the New York Times thing?
Yeah. Like I said, my list ain't going to be great.
Come on.
It was new this year, and I've played it a fuck ton. I've played it most days of the year.
So am I.
Yeah, I've only played 4 games.
I know, and that's why I'm giving you shit.
Yeah. So I told you my list was going to be garbage, but also what I will say
I'm
is
just bullying you.
What I will say is,
I want to know what you've cobbled up.
Oh yeah, it's very bad. You guys will drink up and enjoy what it is to be. I'm glad you put me first in the queue, so you guys can make fun of me and then be like, "And this is what a real gamer fucking plays, dickhead." What I will say is, between the mini crossword, the Wordle, the connections, and the strands, if you don't want to pay for New York Times, there's now enough that you can have like a chunk of time in the beginning of your morning that like flexes different skills. And I actually think strands being introduced was really integral for me to come back, because sometimes my brain didn't work in this way, and I would stop all the games and I'd come back and I'd finish them. So I finished most of the 4, most days, at least weekdays when I was in the office. And I think if I had not had that extra, because the strands can sometimes be really straightforward or sometimes be infuriating, but there's also no lose condition, right? But of course I want to get the strand first. I want to look at the thing, see a few words, not peg them out, and then find the strand. And actually that's a very interesting, like, if you want to be the like, I will get the strand first, and you don't write things down, actually looking at this grid of letters and being like, I see a word here, I see a word here, I see a word here. I think these are the right words, so I have a feeling about the theme, but I'm choosing not to highlight them and take them away. It's actually quite hard. The more of those you add without like writing them out, it's really hard to like find the path through the letters that isn't using letters you've used if you don't tag them out. And like, so if you make the strand's goal, I will get the strand first, and you don't write anything down. It's actually quite difficult, and it's a different type of brain flexing that I've just chosen to do to myself. And sometimes it means I'm like, I have no idea, and so I won't do this today. I'll just find a word.
Oh, really? Okay, self-infliction. I just find.
But what I like about it is because that's my thing that I've chosen to do.
Yes.
But if you just wanted to play strands, you could just like look for words, and then when you hit a word that actually highlights, you're like, cool, now these letters are gone, and I only have to focus on the rest, and I can find the strand eventually. It like scales in different ways, but if you like are pretty sure of the theme and you want to do a thing, you can do it in an insanely dumbass, very structured way that my brain likes. And I like the idea that like essentially it's a word puzzle that you can, because of the way it gives you feedback. Like I've never used a hint. Like finding words that don't fit don't mean anything to me because the hints are like defeating the purpose. But there are people who can play it in an entirely different way. So they're really flexible because unlike Wordle or Connections, there isn't a penalty for being wrong.
Okay.
And
I
so
think it was like the afterthought of my day, because it is just like a new puzzle that's been added to the suite.
Yeah, but and for me, it was the extra thing that like means that I would consistently go and try and do all 4 right away, knowing that I won't do all 4 because they flex different parts of your brain. But I will open all 4 tabs, and then usually by the end of the day, I finish them all. And that's like
something other than Chrome open, because otherwise that would probably tank your computer.
Anyway, so that's my number 10.
Right, cool.
I just used to do them in order. Like, this pops up after you finish this one, and that always used to be my last one. But that's an interesting way of approaching it. Never thought of doing it that way.
I'll jump in with my number 10 because it's a game which also kind of isn't a fully fleshed kind of game.
Is it Excel?
It's not Excel. Well, I've been doing a lot of Google Sheets over the last few fucking months, though. It is Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket.
The new one?
Which is the new game that came out, I don't know, September, August-y kind of time, which ultimately is it's the trading card game. It's Pokemon Trading Card Game, but it's a digital version of it. I don't like Pokemon battles. I do not like the main draw or the main kind of thrust of this game. I don't like the actual setup of how Pokemon plays as a card game. What I do enjoy, what I've really enjoyed, and it's the game which has kind of, it's on here literally for this reason, is it's given me a really nice connection with Evelyn. Because she really enjoys opening packs. She enjoys looking at the artwork. She enjoys looking at the Pokemon. She enjoys looking at getting new cards. She's got that. She's absolutely got that little bit of that collector kind of in her. She collects Yo-Yo Bar Bear cards. She collects other little kind of card sets and things. So this has been really nice for the two of us to just sit down and be like, cool. Let's open a pack. Let's see what we've got. Great, we've got a few of those. We can add a flare to those ones and trade some in. So actually this one now looks cooler because it's got like flames on it and stuff. So, the Charmander has little flames as an animation kind of on it instead. So it's not just the card itself. Yeah. So we've kind of been able to sort of sit and even if it's just, 2-5 minutes a day, roughly, just check in, open some packs, do some picks, things like that the game allows you to do.
2 things. One, when she's a bit older, I will introduce her to Magic the Gathering.
No. I'm okay with things that are like low cost. All right.
Yeah. And then number 1, have you? So this is a game of this year that I really wish I got around to playing. Because it's in early access, but Trading Card Shop Simulator.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I've seen some very fun, like YouTube videos, etc. But basically, what I've seen the most people do is they make sure they like rush the game so they can hire an employee who will do the shop shit, and then they just crack packs with their time. Which makes, if you've ever been into a card game, it makes entirely sense. It's gambling that somehow it doesn't feel like gambling or isn't regulated like gambling. And like on the small sense, yeah, opening a pack is fine, right? And like Evelyn doesn't have a sense of like costs and sinking money into getting the thrill of opening. I think it's like, I'm not against it. I've been playing Magic the Gathering off and on. I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna say the year. Never mind. But like it was super entertaining to see the fact that like multiple content creators saw the exact same line, which was, oh, if I do good enough at playing the game, I don't have to do the game. I can sit around and buy booster boxes and crack packs, and then I can just sell to the fake NPCs the expensive cards, but I get to open them, and I'm just gonna do that. And it's like, that is the siren call of CCGs in a nutshell.
Yeah, absolutely. Lucy, you're number 10.
Those are really bad number 10s for both of you. But you did bring up Strand, so Minute Cryptic has been something that I've been playing, so fair deal. My number 10 is Botany Manor.
Oh, nice.
Is a puzzle game that came out earlier this year. It was just really chilled out, puzzle game setting, like had like a witness kind of like look to it. Just walking around this manor, building, figuring out how to grow, plants, because you're basically a botanist. And it actually had a really heartwarming story to it, where it's like you're a woman, and it's set in, I think either the early 20th century or the late 19th century.
Yeah, late 19th. I believe it's like 1880s or 1890s, or something like that. I think. Yeah, turn of the century, roughly. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, you're doing all this research, and you've got obviously the smarts and the intellect to do it, but you're not getting recognised for your work. And it's like, it's all building to, it's like, here's this book that I've written, and it's like, oh, here's all the research, and it's like, a lot of games that have this like cutesy vibe, it was be like, yes, and it was published, and then she became a world-renowned botanist, and we can dedicate all these future discoveries to her. And it's like, it didn't happen that way, which is just like, yeah, it was typical. So many voices were silenced then, and still are. But it still ended on a happy note, where she like opened up her own school and was teaching other girls botany. And it was like, oh, this isn't the wholesome cutesy vibe that a lot of games are going for. This actually has some like, some commentary on it. And it's like, everything's happening like sunshine and rainbows, but it still had I think a really nice and uplifting message, which you didn't expect from a game like that. So number 10.
Nice.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I think I needed a little bit more from it. Quite short. The puzzles were varying levels of difficulty, but nothing incredibly taxing, I wouldn't say. But
that's the game I wanted. Just
fair.
That was it, and it was like, cool, cozy vibe. Didn't need anything. Personally, I didn't need anything else from it. So.
Cool, nice. Yeah. Number 9 then, Adil. We'll roll back round to you.
I finally got around to playing Power Wash Simulator.
Oh, nice.
And what I will say as a latecomer is, there's so much cool, interesting DLC that like is not related to the secretly weird plot. And actually,
did you like that the plot?
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Yeah. So I think I have recommended it to multiple people for very different reasons. So I think you'll just enjoy the thing of the cleaning the thing. and you will play like 4 to 7 levels and be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've recommended to people where it's like, I think you'll be bored by the first 4 levels.
Yeah.
But you will actually be super engaged in where the weird things this game goes. I really like this game. I like both of these things. I think there are a lot of people who will be on one side or the other. But yeah, it's not a new game, but it's a game I finally played this year, and I fucking loved it. And let's be honest,
It's great.
there was a Clean the DeLorean level. Obviously, I bought it, and it was great.
Yeah.
Have you done any of the Final Fantasy VII ones? The bike and the Scorpion tank and stuff. And there's
I think I might have
bunch
missed
of 40k
So
ones.
to be honest, one of my biggest problems is they're so good at releasing niche IP levels. Because I mean, when you think about it, this makes sense because you just need to, like, the people they're working with have a full 3D mesh of a thing.
Yeah.
And they just send it to them and they make a level around it. They can do this pretty much ad infinitum. Like, if they hired 2 interns, they could out Fortnite with respect to putting shit in their game, right? But they don't do that. Instead, like, all of the DLC stuff that I've seen has seemed to come out with care, like the Back to the Future level, for example. I am going now to look at.
It's published by Square Enix.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, so that's probably why. Yeah.
Somehow I missed in March that they released. You're talking about the Midgar special pack.
Yeah.
I somehow missed that, and so because even if it's free, you have to select it and download it.
Yes.
So I didn't. I must have missed like.
Yeah, you've got to pick them all up separately, unfortunately.
Tomb Raider like mansion.
The mansion,
yeah.
Yeah, so I have the Tomb Raider mansion. I have the Halloween. I have the cruise ship. And I have Santa's Workshop, Back to the Future, SpongeBob. I paid for it because I was like, "What is this?"
Oh, yeah.
It was on super sale at the time.
50p.
Of course you did. Yeah, that was my number 8 in 2022. Believe it or not.
Was it?
Yeah. So all I'm saying is I got around to it, and I agree with you folks.
Nice. Good. Number 9 for me is a game very different from all the other ones on my list, but it's Immortality, which did come out last year on lots of other platforms, but came out on PS5 this year, which is where I played it. Immortality is the Sam Barlow rolling through video clips game, but I think it hits so well for me because it does the whole subversive and hidden elements on a lot of these clips. So rolling some clips backwards or at certain speeds will unlock additional portions where other characters who aren't part of the films that you're rolling through clips on, those characters come out and they talk to you, and there is this storyline behind it, or there is this kind of this story of these characters behind it, which is driving a lot of the stuff that's actually happening within the films and who is in the films and other characters that appear and things like that. And it jumps between a bunch of slightly more sort of early grainy films, from the 70s, and then into sort of resurgence for the actress, kind of I think in the mid 2000s, something like that. So there's a bunch of different filming techniques that have happened in it. There's a bunch of different filming sort of qualities that happen in there. It's just a really well fleshed out game that builds on that builds on her story ultimately, and the way that you're trying to navigate, catalog, and run through stuff, but it gives that extra level of this story in the background that you have to kind of unlock and find out, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, I think it was whatever year it came out was one of my honourable mentions because appreciated a lot of what it did, and I think just hearing you speak about it now, I probably appreciate it more the more time goes by, because it's just like kind of what a undertaking, and like what a kind of pay into like film and the industry that it is. So
Yeah. So I thought it was the PS5 release was this year, and I thought it was from 2023, but it's actually from 2022. So
yeah.
There we go. That is my number 9. Lucy, your number 9.
Yeah, it's Indiana Jones. You were talking about games that we haven't finished yet.
Okay.
Nice.
It's one of those where it's like I wish every time that I'm not playing it, I just want to get back to it. It was not on my radar, and then I listened to a podcast. Danny O'Dwyer's like No Clip podcast.
Yeah.
He described it as like he was describing all these games. It was like Hitman, like. I'm not a fan of Dishonored, but I like what Arcane do. That kind of immersive sim thing. Like I love Prey.
I really like Arcane.
And it was just like, oh, it's this game. It's like a melange of all these games, and it's like, hold on, I forgot how much I love the first 2 Wolfenstein games by Machine Games on like the last recent generation. It's like, and I love Indiana Jones. Why wouldn't I like this game? It was just like. Duh. I think it's probably more of an indictment on Xbox and their kind of like recent history with their exclusives, but it's like it's kind of Bethesda and like maybe it was probably in development. In fact, most definitely was before the acquisition and stuff. So it's like, why wouldn't it be good? And it is good. It absolutely reminds me of the best parts of the Wolfenstein games.
Nice.
Like, I think those games were not too good with stealth. This is just like much better. This is very much not a shooter like those games were.
Okay.
This is very much you are Indiana Jones. You know. Okay, this is a bad example when he takes out his gun and just shoots a guy, with who's going all crazy. But it's just like do the most simple thing, which is usually just hitting somebody around the head with a shovel. And it's like, and it's like, it's just, I think the developer, Machine Games, just revel in like, yes, fascists and Nazis, they're stupid. Like, you can literally beat, cause a stir, have 7 of them running at you and just beat them over the head with like a candlestick. And it's just great. And it's like, it's not, really punishing stealth or the levels over stealth or reload that checkpoint stealth. It's like, if you mess up, then just hit them with a shovel.
Nice.
Because they're stupid.
I think I read somewhere.
As all fascists and Nazis are.
I can't remember who posted it on Blue Sky, but I read someone saying that the detail is quite nice in that when the subtitles are on and the Nazis are whistling, it comes up saying out of tune whistling.
It does, yeah.
It just digs at them constantly, every possible opportunity.
Yeah. And Indiana Jones is with like just little snippets of just like these fascists, these dumbasses, and it's just like that, and it's just like it's great. They always seem to come out with a game that we need in these sort of times, and it's like, yeah, this is pretty good. But it's kind of like the best parts of Uncharted, the Lost Legacy, where it's like, oh, has that semi-open world kind of thing, but you're solving puzzles, and it's like you're traversing the world and like platforming. Less so in this, in terms of like you're always climbing in like an Uncharted or something like that. But it has like the best parts of like that of what Lost Legacy was trying to do, and I think accomplished quite well, having these semi-open areas and then solving puzzles and exploring within that. And yeah, it's a real revolution on like an adventure game. I thought it would just be like linear 10 hours kind of thing, but it's like no, it's these open areas where you can do anything that you want. Basically, you don't have to go down like the main like campaign. You can there's so many side things that you can do, and it's excellent. It's really good, and it's really surprised me. And Troy Baker is exceptional. Harrison Ford voice. There are these like kind of like small Troy Baker intonations that you pick up on, but otherwise his like delivery as Harrison Ford is exceptional. It's
Nice.
incredible. Yeah.
Good. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Number 8 then, please. Adele, we'll start with you.
This is one that's going to make Lucy real happy. It's just Midnight Cryptic.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it.
Not much to say on it. Did we talk about it last episode?
Yeah.
Episode before? Yeah.
Got it
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
it stretches the brain in a way these other puzzle games don't. It's daily. I'm glad that Lucy finally succumbed to it. I like it. It's like I said, outside of the New York Times thing, I literally have 2 pinned things on my on Firefox. I have the home pinned things, and it's like personal email, junk Gmail, work email, work stuff, and then New York Times and Minute Cryptic, so that I can, if I'm like walking to the office and I'm like I need to ground myself, I just go to those last 2 links. I open up the New York Times puzzles and the the Minute Cryptic, and I do those. We've talked about why that's a useful thing. I'm just saying that's part of the package, even though it's not part of the New York Times thing.
Sure. Nice. Good. Mine is a game I spoke about not long ago. Caravan Sandwich. A little narrative kind of adventure game, nicely contained in a small map. Limited sort of set of characters to talk about, but you're bowling about in a caravan trying to help people ultimately, and bopping about the world, either collecting stuff, taking things to different places, exploring, uncovering things. It's got a lovely sense of exploration to it that you can kind of go almost anywhere straight away. A few sort of stops until you get abilities as you roll through the chapters. It's a game that I reviewed, and before it had released, had a side quest which I couldn't complete because the final chapter pushed me in a direction which wouldn't allow me to complete it, even though that's when it appeared. And I've gone back to the game and done that final side quest since. Intrigued enough in the world and kind of what it was doing to actually go back and say, I'm going to spend another sort of hour in the world and just see those final few bits, because they've obviously patched it and allow you then to they don't push you down that path that it was pushing you through previously, so it allows you to go back and do those elements. So yeah, lovely little game. Again, a bit more of a cozy sort of vibe to it. No combat at all. It is just chats with the characters in the world and driving around, exploring and uncovering stuff. So yeah, lovely art style. Sort of Sable kind of vibes to it, but a bit more of a vibrant color palette, not quite as muted as Sable gets within the sort of the areas. But yeah, it's a nice little time to spend like 5-6 hours with, and just sort of enjoy exploring that world really.
And just the stupidest but best SEO name as well.
Yes, very much. Yeah, makes no sense. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense to the game, but as a title, yes, absurd. Good. Lucy, number 8.
It is Crow Country. I have no kind of reverence or nostalgia for the Final Fantasy look, because it's Final Fantasy. Nobody likes those games.
Who are you calling nobody?
But I do like old school survival horror like Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, obviously, and like PS1 kind of like graphics kind of like that. And it's just that it's very simple. It's very simply cribbing on those aspects. It's like baby's first, like Resident Evil, because it's a bit more forgiving with like there's no ink ribbons. You can save at any time, but it's like, okay, you have to save between like these save points, and there's no auto save. If you die between then yes, you're going to lose progress, but it's rather simple. They're giving you plenty of ammo and health and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just about, puzzle solving, going from room to room. It's like, oh yes, this weird contraption works with this weird contraption, because it's all set in like a amusement park, so they can get away with that creative license of having all these stupid things interact with each other. It's not quite like as, Resident Evil 2, where everything's meant to be in a police station. It's like, why do you need to, put this arm on this dummy to get to this other place in this police station? This is kind of like stupid. But in an amusement park, it kind of makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, it's good, and the story, it's not as I guess, like, cerebral or heady as like something in like Signalis that came out the other year. But it has a decent enough payoff to the story, so it isn't all just like fun puzzle gameplay. But I think that's mainly where the fun lies, in that kind of like, oh, survival horror, I need to kind of watch my ammo. It's more about the puzzles. Which is somewhat of a story.
Ultimately, what the first Resident Evil game was, really. Much more about the puzzles than it was about the actual combat.
Exactly. It's that with a few more quality of life things, because like, you can play this with tank controls. I was like, no. I was like,
I was going to ask you about tank controls.
Like, you know what?
Because I knew that game had
I'm fine
some.
with tank controls, but I'm just like, what are we doing? Like,
tank controls
I'm cool in this. I'm cool in this sense, where I don't. Because it's obviously playing to like, you don't need to be in that the old school survival horror headspace. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, it's fine.
So I think just gonna play tank controls are a great example of, it wasn't good. It was a limitation while people were thinking things through, but because of nostalgia, some people want to convince themselves that the modern games should have it. It's like, no, you can figure out how to make a game feel like old school games without giving the user the worst input mechanism.
I disagree, because there's a lot about tank controls that people can do now, when it's all about camera position and how.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Jump scares can.
Sorry, I was just thinking the replication of that. Yes. Camera and input mechanism is garbage.
You're right.
It was garbage then. Yes. But yes, you're right. There are multiple ways of dealing with that. One is, don't give the tank controls. The other is, make the tank controls work fine because you give like camera control or something. Can you hear the cat, or is that just okay?
Dorian trying to get in or out?
No, he is literally just telling everyone that he has taken a poop.
Oh. Lovely. I'm glad I couldn't hear that. No, I was more agreeing with you, Adil, saying like, nostalgia isn't just about making things harder to play. Where tank controls can be utilized in a sense where it's like, oh, we're going to do it to make sure everything's very authored and very controlled. So when you turn this way, this happens, or when you turn that way, this jump scare happens.
Right, railroading.
You're right in saying that a lot of modern games, to evoke older games from that era, they just shoehorn in tank controls, and that doesn't work. And I think this might be a good example of that, where it's like, playing with tank controls probably doesn't have any material benefit to the experience. So yeah, I agree with you on that sense.
Fair. Nice. Good. Let's roll into number 7 then. Adil, we'll start with you again.
Number 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. It's this only scores low on the list because it's the demo, but it's the Rise of the Golden Idol demo.
Can we shelve this?
Good idea. Okay.
Yeah, I had a feeling. That's why I prefaced it with, I really like the demo. I haven't got around to the main content, and I that's just where it is on my list. We'll be fine.
Maybe we'll return to that game shortly at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
or Lucy's just like, fuck that game. I don't want to talk about it.
Doesn't appear at all. Nice.
If I wanted to do that, I would have done that about like.
Oh yeah, no one is a nerd.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So my number 7 is Never. which again, another narrative based game. This is a 2D side-scrolling game from the developer who made Gree, whose name escapes me. Nomada Studios. There we go. It's great. It's great. It's a lovely experience. I think it is one that, again, it's only maybe 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 if you're looking for collectibles and trying to sort of hit every puzzle in the areas. But it is one to sit and try and do in one sitting, ultimately, because I think it tells a lovely, heartfelt story, and it has a nice gameplay loop to it. It's a little bit more combat heavy than Gree, and that combat is a bit floaty. It's not as precise as I kind of would have liked it to have been, but I understand why it's floaty, because that is the vibe, that is the style of the game, that is the world that it is set in, that is the movement type that they have gone for. The combat actually fits quite well with what they have achieved as a game. It's just not quite. I'm like, oh, I've died. And then I'm like, no, I understand why, and I can see how I need to adapt what I'm doing, rather than it being like too difficult. My only criticism of that game was that there was a kind of a skill wall when you get towards the last boss, and suddenly it's like, oh, this boss moves in ways that no other enemy has moved really previously, and suddenly the difficulty has jumped up.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
It's really annoying. It didn't. Like, it wasn't a bash my head against the wall for an hour just to get past it. It took me 4 or 5 times to kind of to get through. And actually, when I did do it, I'm like, yes, fuck yeah. I'm really glad that I managed to get that. And then the game goes into its kind of its final sort of act, and it goes to a place narratively that I thought it would go and didn't want it to go, but actually resolves it in a way that I was satisfied with as well. So it's very well made, as you would expect from Nomada, because Green again was a really good fucking game. So yeah, never. There's wolves, there's cool characters, there's cool animals in it as well. So
it's actually the thing that I'm hovering the button over on the Steam sales, where it's like, I want to get to this, before end of year. But I'm glad you've been able to speak about it, Ben, because but it's up there for me, as I loved Gree.
Yes, you can buy both of them right now for like less than 12 quid.
Yep.
Oh, nice. That's
or
amazing.
maybe it's not. Maybe because I already own Gree on Steam, it's not showing me the full price possibly. Actually.
Because I think Nova on sale was about £30-ish or something.
Yeah, 13.60. Yeah. So yes, yeah. Cool. Lucy, number 7 then, please.
Number 7 is mouthwashing. Again, we'll not speak about this too much because it's best experience for yourself. I only spoke about it like on our
last episode.
Podcast, so, yeah. It's really good. Yeah, it's just one of the most just really confident in its storytelling and its presentation kind of games, and has everything in it, just like things of like, I'm not going to say because I'd just be spoiling the game at that point. The themes in it, but just go experience it for yourself. It's definitely one of the most striking games, and I think probably due to just recency bias why it's not higher. But I'm sure this will I'll think about this game and I'll recall this game and I'll mull over this game in like months and years to come. But yeah, super striking, super, shocking. Like playing that game, nothing felt great, but everything felt great at the same time. It's like it's like a car crash and you can't take your eyes off it kind of experience. So yeah, mouthwashing, my number 7.
Nice, good. How's everyone doing for a beer before we roll into number 6s? Can we do one more and then roll into another beer, or are we all sort of?
I have as much. I could easily.
Cool.
Yeah. One more.
Let's do number 6s then. We'll come back to you for your number.
Oh God, I have to look up my list because no one knows what this list is.
It's Magic the Gathering. Or it's
6?
a demo for Super Pokemon Go.
It's Persona 3 Reloaded.
Oh.
Just as bad.
Okay. I thought that
I'm
might have been a bit higher.
Didn't you
Nope.
play this on like PSP?
Oh, actually, I have now realized that I put Power Wash Simulator at 6 and at 10. I forgot to move it. Great. I will do some jigging, but yes, it is now whatever is 7, whatever we're on at.
6. We're at 6. We're on 6.
Yeah. How did that happen?
Didn't you play it on like a
Nerds.
flight on like a PSP or something like
So
that?
the point is, it's my first Persona game. I purposely bought it. It was a reloaded game, so it has some quality of life things. I actually, knowing how quality of life in these like long stretch games work, it's like I don't want to play the current version of Persona 5 because that means I can't play this old one. All of the people say it sucks because there's like quality of life improvements, and I was like, it was on super sale. I'll just see if I like it. And for me, in this particular year, I sunk many hours into the like beginning half of the campaign, despite the fact that it had these lack of quality of life improvements. But it was interesting, and I liked it. And I suspect in the next N years, I will eventually play more Persona games. But like, yeah, it scratched an itch I hadn't. So it scratches a JRPG itch in a way that it also scratches a like, I don't know what you call it, like, because the Persona games make the relationships matter as a game mechanic, but that's behind the scenes. So you don't quite get what the levels are. Right? You can't get like your friendship with person X is Y, right? Like,
like
it means that you
machine.
just
The odds are just unknown.
yeah, and like obviously I can just go on the fucking computer and go on the internet and be like, how do I maximize this? But it's like no. As soon as I recognized that the game didn't output these metrics, but it had them, I was just like, I don't fucking care. I did do the Google search because I'm an optimizer. I was like, will it matter? And it's like, no, it won't. Cool. I'm just gonna play this game and like interact with the people who seem interesting to me, and I'm pretty sure I will finish it because I am now old enough that I don't care about min-maxing for the sake of it. And actually,
it depends on the game if you use that. You're a complex human being.
No, I said for the sake of it. If it will make me win the game, I will care. Okay. But the point is, like, from my like internet research, is like you can beat Persona 3, 4, and 5 with suboptimal builds and relationships, which is great because that's what I want. Yeah, I want the computer has to put a number on friendship and relationships. I fucking hate that idea for reasons that if you have ever been in one of my lectures, you will understand. But like, what I like is it doesn't front load it, and if you don't do that, you can still beat the game. That balance allows the focus to go back to who are the people who you want to hang out with. You're in high school. But also at night, high school turns into terrible, horrible Eldritch horrors. But like, it's this really nice split between sort of visual novel / high school like bullshit stories and the world is ending, and you have to do you are Cloud, but also you have to go to school, basically, right? And that fucking is great. That's great. It's just great. Have I finished the game? No. As soon as my chunk of April and May when I was playing it regularly stopped, because I was busy with work, I didn't play anything. And I haven't quite gone back to it, but I don't think that's a mar on the game so much as I'm who I am with games.
Yeah, that's fair.
So like I'm like 40% sure that I might end up booting it up on my Steam Deck on the plane when I fly back to Canada tomorrow. I might also just open up Power Wash Simulator and whatever the latest DLC is, right? Like, who knows?
Fair.
This is why Power Wash Simulator was 8 and 6, or whatever the fuck I fucked up.
Nice.
God damn it, I'm really annoyed at myself.
Oh, don't be.
Nah.
Power Wash Simulator, deserved a...
Oh, but I had
Nice.
multiple honorable mentions, which means I think I now have to make sure Power Wash Simulator is number 6, and then have to retroactively give
Add
something else.
Yes, yeah. Chuck that in. Cool. So I think I talked about games that I haven't finished as well. This is the first one of those, which is Frostpunk 2, is my number 6.
Well, yeah. The only way to finish that is to have everyone freeze to death.
Exactly, which I haven't had yet. Right? I'm at a point where I'm in that game, limping through. Let's say. So having had a bit of a break from it, and having built up my civilization or built up my city, and navigating the different factions that are around it, and navigating the whiteouts and blizzards and deaths of people when a mine collapses, or not a mine, but your industry collapses and shit like this. It's a bleak fucking game, right? I loved Banish from several years ago. And I never played the first Frostpunk, but it's basically Banished, but in sort of a bit more of a macro sort of level. A lot more people to kind of deal with. You're looking at kind of one or two little settlements and having to run resources between kind of each of them. But I had a break from it and I came back to it. And I'm like, I can't remember who I was trying to appease at what point. And so the strategy that I was employing to keep my city alive kind of went out of the window when I went back to it. And chaos ensued, where suddenly people want armed patrols in the streets. And I'm like, oh shit, I haven't even researched anything near this. The city's going to go to shit very, very quickly.
But what happens when they realise that they have to pay a bear tax?
But this is the thing. This is exactly.
I thought it was the Homer tax.
Yeah.
Not the homeowner tax.
And I like that there is this kind of like negotiation element to it between these different factions in the city. There's actually a council, and the number of seats on the council kind of changes depending on the level of the factions and things. You can push things through. You can negotiate.
Crusader Kings 3.
Almost.
With snow.
It's got a little bit of that to it. It's got that higher level of strategy to it. It's not just resource city management. It's got a bit of strategy to it as well. But it unfortunately, I think for a bit of a detriment to Frostpunk 2 is that I go back to it and I'm like, oh shit, my current run is so bleak that I don't want to do it anymore, and I'll start a new one. And so I'm like, no, don't do that. Let's start a new one. So almost every time I go back into the game, I have started a new game, and this is why I will never finish Frostpunk 2.
Yeah.
I will never get to a point where they depose me. I will never get to a point where I win. There's just no way that this game is ever going to finish for me. It will always be a new game because I've got no fucking idea what's happening in the previous run that I'm doing, kind of thing. So yeah,
the risk is just too much.
Exactly. And what I should do is go
if
into
you
one.
Were like most world leaders, where it gets too much and you just step down.
Just go in and claim asylum in Russia.
The finish, yeah. Or was it New Zealand? Yeah. But those are women. We have compassion.
Exactly.
Who would rather just send babies into the mines? But
babies into the mines and then run away to your fucking buff gay mate. And just...
I'm gonna be honest. I heard Bailey's into the mines, and I was like, "Well, that's an interesting tag."
I mean, to be fair, that probably would help. Yes, so I think I spoke about Frostpunk 2 a few weeks back, so we won't linger on it, and we will come to you, Lucy, for number 6.
Yeah, my number 6 is the Crimson Diamond, which again spoke about previously on the podcast. It is a callback to early DOS, EGA, CGA games. It's a text parser, point and click adventure game. This isn't part of my regular bingo. Where it's usually point and click, but kind of LucasArts style, like even Scum Engine kind of like mechanics to it. But this is like old school text parser where it's like you're having to, you know, manually enter and type in like do this, talk to this person, do that. But it had some really like good quality of life, like kind of like just, you know, shortcuts and you know, like kind of keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that, where it's like you're not having to type whole sentences. But yeah, it was beautiful, just like using all like, you know, those whatever 16 colors were back then, but just making it, you know, just so many more pixels available on the screen, just making it look beautiful. And yeah, it was just like kind of like murder mystery, very, you know, like close quarters kind of limited space, like fully detective kind of thing. And yeah, it was just something that we don't get these days that I have very much a nostalgia for and done well, and not on like a, you know, kind of like smaller, we're only putting this out on itch.io because it's only 20 minutes kind of like scale. It's like, no, this is like full version, fully like retail version of this thing, where it's like that's a big swing, that's a big risk, because it's like, yes, us freaks are out there, but how many of us are still playing games or are still enjoying these games and find out about these games and play these games more to the point. So it's it was just great to see, and it was yeah, full on nostalgia mode, more so than, you know, Crow Country, because I don't know. I'm not that old, but PlayStation 1 still seems like kind of new to me, like new school.
Yeah.
Whereas
No,
this
that
is
makes
just
sense.
like firmly where my nostalgia is like kind of rooted. So yeah, really enjoyed it.
Nice. Good. Let's open up some more beers then.
Sounds good.
Roll through our top
I'm gonna go get mine.
fives with some beers. I've got mine sat here. It's a stout, which is why I didn't mind it sort of sat on the. I don't mind it sat on the desk for a little bit.
Aren't you clever, Ben?
Exactly.
Gosh.
This is a collaboration. It's one of New Bristol Brewery's kind of Christmas beers. It's a collaboration with Siren, and it is the Vietnamese Coffee Affogato Stout. It is 6.5%, so a little bit lower in the percentage than the Deya, but I imagine it's going to be a much bigger taste with it being a stout. So there's a little bit of flavour text. Distinct and decadent is the taste. It's got East Kent Goldings in as the hops, and the text says a Vietnamese spin on the classic Italian dessert. Condensed milk ice cream and Vietnamese coffee takes the place of espresso. Creamy and delicious. This is not a vegan beer, I don't imagine. I can't see vegan on here anywhere. And having a quick look, it...
Oh, can I interrupt?
It might be a vegan beer, actually. Yes, of course you
can. Because Wylam has a Buffalo Trace version of their macchiato, Imperial Macchiato.
Yeah.
So while I have learned in this past year, because of the veganity, puts lactose in more beers than you would think they need to.
Right.
Which sucks, because I like their beers. And they are also available in the north.
Yes.
However, their Buffalo Trace BA Imperial Macchiato is a barrel-aged version of their double hazelnut praline, so double hazelnut coffee porter. If you look at all of the online salespeople who sell the regular version, it has lactose in it.
Yep.
If you look at anyone who's selling the online, the BA Buffalo Trace version, they just put lactose as an allergen.
Oh.
So both versions online advertise themselves as having lactose.
Okay.
That's consistent, right? It's a special edition. Why would there not suddenly be lactose? And then if you happen to buy a keg from them of this special edition, on its label on the key keg, it says allergens lactose. But if you happen to look at a can in a fridge of the Buffalo Trace BA 2024 12-month aged version of this double hazelnut coffee porter, whatever the fuck they called it, it says allergens, nothing lactose.
Right.
It's not there.
Okay. Interesting.
And and if it wasn't for the fact that Bennett the Hop Knocker had happened to buy the cans and the keg at the same time, and he's like, these are definitely the same batch. It has lactose in it. I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Because I think they made a fucking cataclysmic mistake. Cataclysmic in the sense of, I, as an ethical vegan, I'll be okay. But like, I couldn't risk it because, like, well, the
people who it's actually an allergen for.
Lactose. Sorry?
People who it's actually an allergen for.
Yeah. This is awful. Like, that's a very big mistake. But given that every other version of this beer has lactose in it, but the tins of the special edition don't, that's bad. Like, that's just, like, really bad if they fucked up the tin labeling. And again, the order of the tins and the key keg was at the same time, presumably of the same batch, and the key keg clearly says it has lactose. It just paints a picture like they have made a pretty reasonably bad fuck up on labeling.
Yeah.
I'll be okay because, morally speaking, if I didn't know this trade, so obviously I didn't buy it. That's why I'm not drinking it today. But I wouldn't feel like bad ethically because I was.
And then suddenly you understand that it does. Yes.
But I'm not allergic to lactose.
Yep. This new Bristol Brewery beer, which very much on the text says condensed milk, ice cream, and Vietnamese coffee take the place of espresso. There's no ice cream, I don't believe, in it because there's no anything. There's no dairy or anything in the allergens, and it is a vegan beer as well. So it'd be interesting to understand exactly what. Yeah. It does say vegan on it. I just found it. So it'd be interesting to see how they're getting that, what they're getting from some of the ingredients. But I will open this up. We will come to you, Adil, for beer number 2. Which there was some questioning over which beer number 2 would be.
I've made a decision, but also I believe one version of that in the past has been not vegan because I think
they do have a bunch of these Christmas beers. I think they do about 6 or 7 a year. I've got another one in the fridge, which is like a vanilla French custard type one.
Right.
I think they have previously had lactose in them in some of them.
I was going to say, because I remember when I lived in Bristol, this type of release was like, had lactose in it. Yep. At the time, I wasn't vegan. I was a mere vegetarian. But I remember noticing that. So it's actually nice to see them like figure out where the lactose is doing the work.
And
not just immediately put it in. Because I feel like, to be honest, I've had a problem with Wylam because they are very, like, a couple of the pubs in town just like can stock their really tasty beers, and then they're you have to look it up online to figure out if they have lactose in them because their info isn't great, which is why I have a feeling that this tin is wrong. Right? But that's just because I know the track record of it has lactose, but we don't like yell it from the rooftops. Sure. And again, if you hate vegans, sure, subterfuge, but also there are people who need to know if there's lactose.
Absolutely.
Right?
What are you drinking now?
Yeah, I was going to say, so what I'm drinking is the Vault City Caramel Wafer Imperial Stout. A rich, full-bodied Imperial Stout inspired by an iconic Scottish treat, delivering silky, smooth flavors of luscious caramel among decadent layers of chocolate and vanilla. Additions of Belgian dark syrup and brown sugar boost the sweetness, while a carefree, selected blend of chocolate rye, Crystal Star, and Carafa Special 3-star malts enhance the caramel and chocolate notes, rounded out with a hint of bitterness from East Kent Golding hops. It is 12% in a mere 330ml tin.
Nice.
And so what I know about this is they do yell all their allergens from the rooftop, and so there's a whole line of new Vault Cities that came in. All of them I couldn't have except this one because of lactose. But like I know I can trust this because it doesn't say lactose on it.
Okay,
right?
okay. And I think I love a Tunnux, love a caramel wafer as a kind of biscuity treat.
Yes.
I imagine that apart from the chocolate, which might be milk chocolate,
well, it's not
probably
though,
but in the actual
yeah.
chocolate itself, or in the actual kind of Tunnux biscuit itself, it's probably got milk or lactose dairy in it.
Well, like that's one of those things where the decision's actually kind of straightforward, where it's like, is the lactose doing anything for the taste we want from the beer?
Yeah.
Versus, are we trying to replicate?
Are we trying to replicate it? Do we need that exact milk chocolate taste? Maybe not. We want a chocolatey taste as part of this. Yeah, absolutely. Lucy, what are you drinking?
Yeah, I'm drinking I'm glad you lot were vamping, because I'm drinking a
long-winded
Baron beer.
Baron, nice.
Baron beer. It's one of their birthday beers. It had like a wax seal on
Featured
it.
a lot this year.
Oh, nice.
Crack out old Lebanon for it. Everyone should have a Lebanon penknife. Just saying. I've had
knife. You gotta have a multi-tool. Leatherman makes great multi-tools. Fuck pen knives. Their strength is the multi-tool.
Yes. I've had it since I was 18, so...
It's a man made of leather.
It's old. And the... Anyway, Baron. It's a collaboration with Beretta. It is 10%, 500ml, and it is a 10% Imperial Stout. I do actually want to read the flavor text because I thought it was quite interesting. Well, not even the flavor text, just the information on it. But this is our first barrel-aged Imperial Stout, and which is surprising. I mean, they work from a very small place. I've been there, but it's their first barrel-aged Imperial Stout, so I guess that makes sense. They've made Imperial Stouts which have been very good before, but yes, barrel-aged Imperial Stout. And we were very fortunate to collaborate with Beretta from Romania, who make them amazingly, as they do. So it says hops, harlequin, grains, Mather Otter, oat malt, crystal 100, 240, 400, chocolate malt, malted dextrin, yeast, WHC saturated, and water. I think maybe on one of your beers past, Ben, we may be discussing it, but they say they tell you what, like, how much calcium.
Yes.
Calcium 50, magnesium 1, chloride 49, sulfur 55, and K is potassium?
Yep.
Potassium 50. My GCSE level chemistry coming in handy there.
See the periodic table in front of you and you know exactly what it is, yes.
It's literally, just the atomic shorthands, like Mg for magnesium and all that stuff. But Nerdy Bits double mashed to make the thickest what we could, boiled for 6 hours, transferred, it's only one guy wording it there, transferred to the barrel after 2 weeks conditioning post-firm, aged in a wild turkey ex-bourbon barrel and a rum barrel for a year.
Nice.
Blended to make this crazy beer. Named after my most distant relative who was beheaded in France in 423 AD. Alright.
What was it called?
Okay. Was it Decimus Rusticus? Okay. Wasn't expecting that bit at the end. But yeah, I love how it's Nerdy Bits at the bottom, but like the Nerdy Bits is like, sadly, what is in the beer? Like you lot were talking about lactose, it's telling about the hops and the water quality. I find that so fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like how sciencey Baron get on their cans, and it's something something that Atom do as well a little bit more. You know, these kind of slightly more scientific approaches to what's going into the beer, and talking about the water quality and the consistency of like the minerals and stuff that are in it, versus just it's this hop. and you get nothing else apart from allergens, kind of thing on the can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, look at that, Ben. Look at that.
Nice. Similar to mine. Yours is a bit more of a brown head on yours. Mine's very white.
Yes,
Very
definitely.
white head. It does stick around on the side of the glass a little bit.
Both looking good, but from the head alone, I would pick this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you know you're in for a good time.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the nose on this is lovely. It's a lovely, lovely coffee flavour. A little bit of sweetness, a little bit of vanilla in the nose. It's very strong. Like, that coffee flavour is very, very strong in that nose. That's incredibly smooth. And actually, I was expecting from the nose, whenever you have a stout that's got that coffee element to it, I always expect that slightly, not metallic flavour, but that kind of, that zing, that kind of sweet element that you get from a roasted kind of coffee stout. You get that slight metallic kind of flavour. That's not in this at all. This is lovely and smooth. Like, really, really smooth.
Can you remind me of the burn?
Yep, it's New Bristol Brewery and Siren, and it's 6.5%. So it's a lighter beer.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's that kind of strength. You are expecting that kind of. Ooh, you're not quite going for that depth of flavour that is in, because you can't at a 6% beer.
Yep.
So yeah, you do get that kind of, like, as you say, kind of metallic, not in a bad way, but just that kind of, like, taste to it. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep, but this isn't there. It's a lovely coffee flavour. It's very smooth. There is that bit of vanilla. There is that kind of smooth, creamy kind of ice cream sort of flavor. I can see why they say ice cream on the back, even though there's no lactose, there's no dairy kind of in this. It's kind of smooth with a little hint of sweetness, and then it's just nice cold coffee kind of running through it. It's not harsh, it's not metallic, it's not too bitter. There's a touch of bitterness to it, but it's not too bitter. It's a bit muddy, perhaps. Like, it's that kind of coffee. It's not really bitter kind of coffee. It's more earthy, it's a little bit more muddy, but that married with that bit of sweetness from that kind of condensed milk ice cream, as they say on the back, but feels very, very smooth. And you're getting that kind of, it's not the sweetness of semi-skimmed milk. It is that slightly dulled down kind of sense that you get from something like a vanilla ice cream.
Right.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I was gifted a advent calendar from Chiltern Brewery, who are in Buckinghamshire. And I've had them before, and they're like, traditional brewery, but been around since like 1980s or something like that. And, making very traditional styles, but also very well. And it's like, sometimes you're like, not other than a few years ago, because my same friends bought me the same like kind of thing the other day, and it's like last year, it's like, I'm very happy because I like this brewery. But it's like that kind of like 6% kind of stout that I had, but it was like, this is like, it's not like some of the, I don't know, something that you get from, I don't know, Hobgoblin, where it has that very metallic kind of taste to it.
And it's really light, and it's watery.
Yeah. This was nothing of the sort, and it was just like, so everything you were saying, Ben, it was just evoking that kind of memory in there.
Yeah.
It's like those beers did not last. Do I still have more? Why haven't I drank them? You should be 12 hours of Christmas, let alone the 12 days of Christmas.
Brilliant. Last thing I'll say about the new Bristol Siren collab is it's not a full flavour. We are at a 6% stout, 6.5% stout. We're not up there with something that is thicker, but it's not watery. It is smooth.
Yeah.
It is medium bodied. This is a very medium bodied beer, and it works quite well for the level of flavour that is going on for it. It doesn't need to be any thicker. It would be worse if it was lighter. I think they've hit a very good level of mouthfeel and quality on the beer itself, combined with those nice flavours that are coming through, that smoothness, that creaminess, that coffee, that light coffee, that touch of sweetness as well. This is very nice.
Excellent.
Yes.
Sounds good, man.
Adil, the Vault
Yes.
City, the caramel wafer.
So I will say, it's a 12% Impy Stout. It poured with no head. It didn't magically grow it afterwards. But on the nose, you get the caramel right away. Not as much as the wafer. I was hoping for a little more malty undertones on the nose. It's just like very sweet caramel. But it's 12%, so like there's only so much that the malt can do when you have such a, I'm assuming, alcohol forward sweetness.
Sure.
Very sweet. I mean, Vault City does what they say on the tin. I will say, they call it a full-bodied Impy Stout.
Mm-hmm.
And you get these stouty notes. It's just like take a. Well, let me have another sip, so make sure it's not just like.
Is it
my
more like a
first sip.
dessert kind of? You know, it's more like the Munson sort of dessert stouts, that kind of level of beer.
Yes, and like, given the way they described it, it's also in like a smaller tin. I'll remind you that additions of Belgian dark syrup and brown sugar boost the sweetness. What I will say is, if you took your like something between quintessential Impy Stout and bog standard Impy Stout, so like not just a boring version, but like a nothing that's pushing the boundaries.
Something special, yeah.
Yeah. And then you just like drizzled it with caramel. So every moment of the taste curve is being accented by
sweetness.
like caramel sweetness.
Intense sweetness.
Intense, but not just sweet. Intense caramel sweetness. So you have that like a bit of that browning, which I think is super important to understand what I'm trying to convey from the taste. That's this beer. It is a. I hesitate for quintessential, but just because I think it's not doing. I can't tell if it's doing something interesting in the Impy Stout range, because so much of it, like the caramel, is just overtaking it. But it's not like a boring Impy Stout, which is if you said bog standard. That's why I'm trying to draw the picture.
You'd probably prefer something a bit more, in this case, a bit more bombastic, but just doesn't reach those heights, rather than something that's just a bit more flat and wishy-washy. So, because that's the worst feeling when you buy an Imperial Stout and it's just like,
yeah, and so like
you're a bit few notches below what I need.
Yeah, and so again, I'm not saying it's a bog standard Impy Stout. It's just whatever Impy Stout it is above bog standard. It's because it is drizzled in caramel. I can't really find the bits that are above bog standard, but I suspect it is above bog standard, because I think if it was it was just bog standard, the caramel would overtake it. So there's like a heart. The heart of this is probably like a heartier, more interesting Impy Stout, but because it's literally coated in caramel, you can't find it, and I think that's fine, because I think what they're trying to do is have an Impy Stout that has this caramel wafer like overtones, and I mean overtones, not undertones. And the way you do that is you make a slightly more boisterous Impy Stout, and then you tame it back. Because if they made a boring Impy Stout and then put all this caramel flavor in, you'd hate this beer. And that's what I'm trying to like convey, is I still get some of those Impy Stout notes, but not enough where if I was looking for an Impy Stout, I would want it.
Sure.
It just seems like it's not well balanced, which you
I think if I wanted a caramel wafer, Vault City, knowing what Vault City does, this is what I would do. It's kind of exactly what I expected.
In terms of like, take it out of like that package.
Oh yeah, no. If you want an Impy Stout, you're going to be disappointed because it's not enough Impy Stout. I'm just pointing out that in order to make this not a flat, boring caramel tasting beverage, they had to make a decent impy stout and then like drizzle it with caramel, so you still have some of those notes pushing through. The problem is, if you wanted an impy stout that happened to taste like caramel, you won't like this as much as you hope because it's just too caramel forward.
Yeah, fair.
Having said that, given that I know how Vault City does exactly what they say is on the tin 9 times out of 10, this is what I expected, and I actually think it's well balanced for what I expected.
Cool.
Because there are these undertones. I'm not feeling like I'm just having caramel wafer drink. There's a beer underneath this. It's very clear. The problem is, knowing what I know about these things, it's like, oh, I bet the beer underneath this, if you pulled the caramel back, would taste fucking great. But I will never know because you've done the thing. This is literally, it's kind of like damning with fate and praise. Like, I expected this. I know what it is. Like, I know what their philosophy against beers are. This fits that to a T.
Yeah.
It's just sort of exemplary to, I've had a lot of Vault City, especially since I moved to the north. And this is exactly where I just want them to be more beer forward, because I think the heart of this is probably a really interesting beer. That's why I've taken some minutes to say, oh, in order to taste what I've had, given how strong the sweetness that they've added, and still tasting the beer, means they've made an interesting beer and then made it sweet. And actually, me personally, I'm more interested in the beer they made than the
fair
result of the sweetness.
Which we've spoken about plenty of times. They're obviously they're artisans and they're very good at their craft. But it feels like they're going for the bombastic and the pomp most of the time.
I think they did exactly what they aimed for. I just know that in order to aim here, they had to do something interesting, and just so that when they mask it, it stays okay. And I'm super interested in what it would have been. But that's fine.
I want to believe that they're just a bunch of real gritty. Just we want to make red IPAs, traditional kind of trad beers, and then the sales team are just like, oh, but let's Willy Wonka it and put Slurm in it and put Aero and Cadburyland in it, and just there going hee before it goes on the canning line, and
like little Oompa Loompas. Throwing stuff in.
What's the Vault City term for what is the Oompa Loompa version at Vault City? No, I think this might get into bad territory.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
let's move on. Let's roll. I a little bit pressed for time. Let's say.
Yeah,
we're gonna.
It's okay.
To wrap up.
My number 6 is my number 8 because I fucked up. So I'm just saying, Power Wash Simulator should have been here.
No, Lucy, your beer, Baron.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
It's fine. It smells great. It's interesting that they aged it in ex-bourbon and rum barrels, because can absolutely smell like the honey bourbon on it.
Nice.
Sort of got raisin, dark red fruit kind of aroma to it as well. And I think I can smell some of that Arlequin hops that are in it. It's a Baron Imperial Stout, by the way, Adil, because I think you stepped out when I said it. Because there is something kind of nettily and fresh and hoppy about the aroma.
Nice.
But yeah, this is this is a beer that you just want to luxuriate on. All those sweet honey, chocolatey. It's not even an ounce of bitterness in this, but I'm not mad about it. It's just all sweet, but not cloying, sickly sweet, or as you say, Adil, just they poured caramel in it on the start. This is just this has been blended and like coming together over time, where it's like that sweetness just. It's not even an undertone, as you say it is. It's like an overtone. It is sweet, but it feels like a considered sweetness, where it's just like it's not everything there is, because it has those underlying notes of like bourbon, oaky, nutty, malty kind of flavors to it. And I think, yeah, I don't know if they dry hopped it with harlequin or whatever, but it still feels like he's still getting a bit of like levity and lightness from those hops. Yeah, just so good.
Nice.
I will enjoy this whilst we're talking about top fives.
Yeah, let's go then. Let's go. Adil, number 5, please.
Yeah, I think I already spoiled it.
It's already
it should have been Power Wash Simulator, and I did my ranking wrong. And so just sub in your favorite of my honorable mentions into 9 or whatever I put it there.
I'm gonna put to you where it's like I have to go now.
Yeah.
I'm putting your number 5.
Yeah. I'll just.
Fair. Okay.
I know that you were taking notes, and that's like suboptimal.
No. I'm just literally writing down the number when Lucy's done it, so I know that all 3 of us have covered that number. Yeah. That's my tracking for the episode.
I really like that game. It deserves this spot. I don't know
rather
why
than the other spot.
Spots. Yeah, that's it. We've already talked about it. Go on.
My number 5 is a very new game, which I haven't spoken about at all. I've only been playing it for like 2 weeks. It's Marvel Rivals, which is the new PvP arena shooter type game. Where you are one of the Marvel characters that they have on the roster, like 30 odd characters. You're in teams of, I think, 6 different characters, and then you can either play team deathmatches or you have objective-based things. It's basically a shooter, Lucy. It's like it's a third-person shooter.
It's
I'm just
the thing that everyone wanted to make clones of 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it's Concord, it's all of these other games that have come out this
year. It's Overwatch Marvel, right?
It's Overwatch Marvel, absolutely. But it's got a little bit of, difference to it, in that there's quite a broad range of characters and difference. It's not standard like classes either. There's lots of different characters that do lots of different things. I haven't found a character really yet that I'm set on, ultimately. I've been jumping between Hawkeye, Rocket Raccoon, a couple of other characters as well. Hawkeye is more DPS, Rocket Raccoon is DPS and healing. I've done a little bit of Wolverine for just straight up sort of melee kind of combat, a little bit of Black Widow as well for more range sort of combat. But it's scratching an itch. The games are really short. How long is a match?
A
match is about, it can be, if it's a sort of team deathmatch, you might be looking, it very much depends. If it's like a hold and objective kind of match, if you just dominate, it's 5 minutes long. If it's back and forth, it's 10 minutes long. That kind of thing. So it can be really quick. It can be a little bit more involved. But I'm kind of enjoying the balance of it. Nothing has felt too overpowered. Nothing has felt unfair. Let's say, like deaths and things when enemies have kind of come in. Nothing's felt unfair. Star-Lord's a little bit OP, maybe, in certain situations. But it's so quick and it's very, very satisfying as a shooter. That it's like, cool. I've got 5 minutes. I'll play a quick game. I've got 10 minutes. I'll play a quick game. And I'm fitting games in. It is free. Yeah, it's free.
Yes.
So downloaded on the PS5. It's free to play. You can buy. There's a season pass. Of course there is. You have different skins in that season pass. You level up the season pass to be able to unlock the next page. There's other levels in this game where you can unlock like a story, like a comic book within the game. So if you do certain things and earn currencies, you can then unlock page 1 of the comic book. I've unlocked none of that shit. I am just playing this game and just shooting Squirrel Girl as much as I fucking possibly can because she's a pain in the fucking ass. There's those kinds of things that I'm really enjoying. where I'm going, cool, I'm playing as Hawkeye. I need to sit back and I need to use my bow and arrow and fucking not snipe people, but I need to be like firing arrows down on Jeff the fucking baby shark because he's a cunt. Like, just absolutely nail him because he will destroy everybody very, very quickly. So it's there's a little bit of strategy to it. There's team ups as well. So two characters actually unlock abilities between them, some passive kind of buffs and things like that. So there's a little bit of not communication between this random group of 6 people that have been thrown together in a team, but at least you can be like, I'm on the character select screen, I'm being Hawkeye, I want to request someone is Black Widow, or I'm being Rocket Raccoon, I want to request someone is Groot, because I can basically sit on Groot's shoulder as Rocket Raccoon and fire shots and heal people and all of this sort of stuff. So there's a little bit of kind of strategy, not a huge amount. It's not really massively reliant on that, but there is that added dimension to it as well.
May I ask if, not being cheeky, but is this, because number 5 is quite high, is this more this is me rekindling that multiplayer itch rather than this is a good game? Just because I've never heard of it before, and I
think it came out like 2 weeks ago, and I think
I mean, that
I
would make
think
sense.
it's both.
But I'm more talking about like Modern Warfare was for me last year. You know,
I think it's both.
A great game, but
I
think rekindling my relationship.
I think it's a strong game. I do think it's a strong game. The map design is really good. The characters all do feel balanced. They feel unique as well, which is good. You know, I'm not going to get the same experience playing Hawkeye as I'm going to get playing Winter Soldier, which is a really similar character, as I'm going to get to playing Punisher, which again is a similar kind of character. They're distinct enough between the kind of characters. As I say, map design is good. It feels really well kind of balanced, but it is scratching an itch. Absolutely. It is definitely hitting a kind of competitive sort of point. And I think, again, because the matches are super quick, it's hitting a competitive itch really succinctly, let's say.
Yeah,
I'm like, cool, done, perfect.
Absolutely.
I've done that. It's 5 minutes. I can go and do something else now. I'll go and make dinner. I'll go and wash up. I'll go and sort some shit.
Last year.
Yeah.
Same this year. I just play Nuketown and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
And yet it doesn't hit my top 10 because I realise how insane my relationship with Call of Duty is. I'll never truly love it until they put a Tina Turner skin in it.
Absolutely, that's exactly what we need. No more fucking knockoff Groot skins or Snoop Dogs or stuff. Tina Turner, absolutely. From Mad Max 3. But the final thing I'll say about Marvel Rivals is it's scratching an itch enough that I am. It's pulled me away from Marvel Snap. So the game that I've been playing in my like little bits of time, Marvel Rivals is pulling me away from. Because
so are you playing it on your phone?
No, I'm playing it on the PS5.
Okay, sorry. I just because that would change my view of the thing.
Yes, no, very much. I'm playing it on the PS5. So, it's a console and PC crossover game.
He doesn't have opposable thumbs.
How dare you? I'll have to do it like
this. This is a. I mean, I think that's a bigger like point in the win column because like Marvel Snap is the thing you could do given your busy lifestyle with work and kids, etc. on your phone whenever, and you're saying the gaming like I don't know amorphous blob that represents has been replaced by something that requires you to be playing in front of the TV.
Exactly. Yes.
And you are doing that.
Yes.
That means this game is like you are foregoing the quick gaming hit that all them Zoomers love because they all like are used to immediate returns. In favor of when you have time, you will do this. Sorry?
It's because he doesn't have Game of the Year on his phone.
I mean, I have Game of the Year on my phone.
As I do.
Yeah. Spoilers.
That's why.
But like, I find that super interesting, right? Because I thought my interpretation of you and Marvel Snap was, I can't play games as often. This is a game I can play. And if you're saying I'm not even bothering with Marvel Snap because I get enough from Rivals for when I have the opportunity to be in front of my TV
absolutely.
uninterrupted, that's a win, right? Because that
Absolutely,
means you're
completely.
not like
very much.
in your lunch breaks. You're not like, I'll play this thing because I want to play a game.
Yep.
You are gaming satisfied. I actually think that's one of the biggest selling points I've ever heard of this game, which is it satiates in the right way that I don't feel like I need to play games that are diversion games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there is another
Game
game.
Simulator, by the way, releases in February 20.
There is another game which does feature higher on my list, which is being alluded to, which I am playing on a handheld device, which is then taking the place of my phone in certain situations. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that at some point.
But I just wanted to highlight that I actually think that's a much bigger point in their win column that it could easily be read as.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Lucy, number 5, please.
Yeah, it's Beyond Shadowgate, which is the long. Well, we didn't even think we were getting a sequel to Shadowgate. Proper sequel.
Yeah.
It was a Kickstarter game that I backed, and yeah, it was just everything that I wanted it to be, like a bigger, longer, uncut Shadowgate. It had the same, hallmarks of the originals, that kind of screen by screen point and click adventure. Same like gruesome deaths that you can just stumble upon, same funny writing, same really, thoughtful but not, obtuse puzzles, and yeah, absolutely loved it. It's one of those Kickstarter dreams come true, and yeah, just so happy to have that game. It may not have had the reach beyond anyone who likes Shadowgate, but it's just like maybe that makes it even more special, where it just feels like it was made for me and a bunch of other sad people still clinging on to that kind of adventure game. So yeah, my number 4.
Brilliant.
Really
good.
Great to
number 5.
Oh, sorry, that was number 5. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, we'll do number 4 now, then, please, and roll back round to you, Adil.
Can I power summon? No, it's So again, this is basically a ranking of game I enjoyed playing over time, and especially with other people. It's Civilization 2.
No.
Wow.
Oh yeah, with Keith. Oh yes, I really enjoyed this. Our LAN party.
Our little LAN party that meant that despite the fact that if you look at, so for those of you who are watching on video, I have a computer here, and Keith set up against that monitor there. Sorry, I'm packing, so this is awful. But you cannot play Civ 2 multiplayer in the same room. So I went down to the living room, which has a home theater PC or whatever you want to call it. And so every time we want to play Civ, I had to go to the living room so that we wouldn't see each other's moves. And it was very nostalgic, but also that game holds the fuck up. And I actually think it's because it hasn't been optimized in a certain sense. Like, it's kludgy enough that you kind of have to just work your way through. And yes, I guarantee you, if you went on the internet, you would find the way to this person on turn 5, this enemy said something aggressive. Someone has figured out that means that you need to respond in this way, and then the next time they attack you, you just respond in this way, and then you win. I'm sure the algorithm isn't so untransparent that you can figure this out. The point is, we both grew up playing the game, and neither of us played it in a long time. And actually, because it's the simplest version, we could just play the game. And hilariously, we played 100 turns, and we still hadn't encountered each other.
Standard when you're playing that kind of game.
And that's what Civ 2, but that's very different from modern versions of Civ, right? And it's like, oh, it's funny because we wanted to. The best part was like, I want to talk to you about the game, but also if I say anything, I'm just giving you information with a map that you haven't figured out because fuck off, you haven't discovered me. So we're just like, this has been fun.
Brilliant.
But really, it's not so much of the Civ 2 part. It's the like playing with someone in the same building, even if you have to exile yourself to another room to make it work. Like,
I think it's
just
still about the Civ
I'm
2
always
part,
going to be
though.
a fan of that type of game, and most modern games are not designed for that to be possible.
Yes.
I will also say Civ 2 is a fucking banger of a game.
That's why I think it's just
it.
about as much as the game, because imagine that those games can still hold up and that.
Yeah.
You can't recreate those kind of experiences now.
It sits in the same sort of breath as Total Annihilation, as the original Command and Conquer, or even Red Alert as well.
But those are all not 4X, right? Those are RTSs.
Yes. Yeah.
And so like having remembered nothing from this, like the upgrade trees, all I will say is, in order to make Civ 2 run, you have to look things up. When you look these things up, you will maybe find images of the entire game.
Who'd have thought?
I think the best thing you could do is find a friend, because the game was not like it's pre-internet. It's like
that's got to be
vaguely TCP/IP but direct connect stuff. There are ways to make that work over the internet, and the best thing you could do, if you want this type of experience of like playing a slow plotting game where you might go 100 turns and never interact with the only other human, is to just get a game like this and just make the tunnel over the virtual, like make a VLAN or whatever the things you have to do, and just play it. And like, if you don't know anything about Civ 2, don't look this shit up. Sorry?
Oh, look, I found an image already.
Yes, I'm aware of what I mean. The big thing I want to say is, if this idea appeals to you, the worst thing you can do is look up optimal strategies for Civ 2. Because that undoes the magic. Like, you want to just try and do the thing, right? Otherwise, I'm sure there's optimal strategies that, like, some of them will make you win really, like I'm sure there's something about all the, like, barbarians, or what do they call them? The, like, guys who are roving, and if you just, like, attack them at the right point, you will level up faster than everyone else than if you just hunt them down. Like, I bet that's a strat, because aggro in these games usually is secretly the win, because most people wouldn't default to aggro, blah, blah, blah. The point is, like, find a friend, play the game, don't worry about winning or optimal strategies, and, like, play Civ 2 in the way that it was designed, and you'll have a fuck ton of fun.
Yeah. It's 600 megabytes, and it's easily findable for anyone who doesn't have the original.
And the best part is, it runs it will run on your goddamn fridge, right? Like, if Doom can run on a fridge, Civ 2 will run on your fridge.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, so that...
Good number 4. Mine is possibly a franchise which might feature elsewhere, but I'm going with the Rogue Prince of Persia as my number 4. Again, another super satisfying game. Very good in its kind of roguelike elements. It's a good Prince of Persia game as well. I haven't played it since the update, right? So they've updated this game recently in the last 6 weeks, 2 months.
So he's no longer purple,
So he's not purple anymore. Exactly, they've changed the art style very slightly, and I haven't played the game since that change. So I'm talking about the super early access version of the Rogue Prince. It's still in early access currently, but it's a great side-scrolling game. It's from the Dead Cells developer.
Yeah. Did you play Dead Cells?
Yes, and I didn't get on as much with Dead Cells.
No, I didn't either.
I think
I wasn't really a fan at all.
Yeah,
it feels great, but yeah, no, the
Yeah.
roguelike kind of thing.
I
There
think
was something
the
that
rogue-
drove me to want to do better at the game.
Yes.
That's how I would
Yeah,
describe
yeah.
it.
Whereas the Rogue Prince of Persia is simple enough that you're not worried about multiple different weapon types. You're not worried that much about your build, let's say. You can
sounds
run
promising.
through and be like, oh cool, here's level 2 daggers. Great, I can adapt to using a slightly faster weapon. Fine.
Oh, so
I'll
it's
use
like
oh, here's level 3 axe. It's a slightly slower weapon, but it hits harder. I can adapt to doing that. Or I can just keep my level 2 daggers. Fine,
oh,
doesn't
that's
matter.
great.
Like, I can run through and do this kind of thing. And I did get through to a point where I'd beaten the mid-level kind of, or the midpoint boss. And then the game is like, we've got more content coming. I'm like, great.
Oh.
I'll wait. That's absolutely fine. That content is now there. I do need to go back to it. I was going to wait until it was kind of a full release before I went back to it. But because of that art change,
seems reasonable.
because of that style change to it, I may dip into it over the winter break a little bit. It's a great Steam Deck game. Absolutely fantastic Steam Deck.
Oh, no.
Fair enough. I might actually like move that a bit up on the wish list. I will also just let people know that the Rogue Prince of Persia is my stage name.
Very good.
For what performances, I'll let you, the listener, figure it
What
out.
stage show are we talking about? God.
Let's move on quickly. Lucy, number 4.
Yeah. My number 4 is Rise of the Golden Idol, which Adil has played the demo for. We spoke about it not long prior to this episode, so go listen to that. It's probably about 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, not long.
Yeah, and I think we'll definitely talk about it later once Adil's played it. But I think it's just Case of the Gold. I always get it wrong. The previous game, the Case of the Golden Idol. It's just that, but this was like Netflix. Was it Netflix backed? And it was like, oh, how's this? Is this going to be like? Thank God it's not exclusive like Monument Valley 3 is. But it's like this is definitely going to have more financial backing. Hopefully they will not buy the developer because they'll just get shut down.
Absolutely,
soon after. But that's not the case. They saw something very special with this. It's like probably a bit more financial backing, and it seems weird because this doesn't seem like a kind of genre or game that needs that. The art style is different, where it's like a bit more zhuzhed up, but it's like still has that kind of ugly kind of look to it, like the first game did, which is good. But I don't think that really helps it. But it's like, who knows with development? Who knows how much the first game sold? Maybe they did need the back-end, but whatever the circumstances are, thank God it's here, because the developers were onto something in the first game, and this just refines that experience.
Nice.
It seems like everything is just tweaked, so it's just like everything that you look at in a scene, in a vignette, is important to what you need to figure out, even if you're not aware of it. There's so many, and it's like that's just like, duh. If I'm making like a kind of detective scene, I'm gonna make everything count in it. Every little pixel, every little image count in it. But that's just like not a thing in most games.
Can I ask you how many red herrings are in the game, or is everything like
none?
Positively,
everything is, even if you do not realize it, there's no red herrings. Everything that you see in a scene, even if you don't realize it, or even if it's not pertinent to that scene, and it's 10 scenes later or 2 scenes later, it's crucial. And you don't even realize it. It just seems like normal set dressing.
Yeah, everything's really well considered.
And that's the genius of it. Yes, everything is really well considered. And that's the genius of it. Because most other games will just be like, just fill this with this asset, or like not even realize how they've put something in a game that may be a red herring, or maybe sending a player down a false path that they don't need.
All the set dressing is actually tightened around the epistemic situation.
Yeah. So it's just so well done, where you think everything is considered. Yeah.
My few minutes with, sorry, I beat the demo, but like it's still the demo.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it felt like. Was like they tightened up the fact that like anything in front of you is/will be pertinent, which is a difference from the original.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's same thing really.
Yeah.
It's a great detective game, best that there's been since the Oberdin, which is
the highest
I don't know
bar
what
you can have.
yeah, the highest praise that you can give for a puzzle game. There is no higher praise. So there you go.
Good. Top threes then. Adil, we'll kick off with you for your.
I think we might not talk a lot about this one because I happen to have played this game this year, but it's from previous years. It is the Case of the Golden Idol.
Fair.
I fucking love that game. So again, I don't want to be too tongue in cheek. I've played almost nothing this year between like struggling with meds and like stress at work and like stuff. I've just not been in the gaming mindset. So the reason why Persona 3 is on the list. Wait, shit, have I?
Yep. No.
No, I've said it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is because it was a game that I actually engaged with for a long period of time. I didn't finish it, but like I felt like playing games because it gripped me. This is a game that I started based on Lucy's recommendation. I know it's older, but we're not playing that timing game. I fucking played it through, bought the DLCs, both of them, and beat them all within a week. Like I just consumed the fuck out of this game.
Yeah.
And like, given the way that I have been interacting with games, that's a bigger deal than it might be in a different year. And so the Case of the Golden Idol just like has to be high in my top three because I just did it. And then I was like, I want more. And the main reason why the demo is in the list is because even though like I could, by the time the actual release came, I didn't have the time to finish it. I know I will consume that game, but that demo download, and even though it was really busy, I had to just play it through when I got it. This is a game type that it's so well presented, so well rounded that I don't have a gap. Like I have ADHD, and normally for most things I can like craft a reason to stop myself. The Golden Idol games don't give me that reason. I just will do it all. And that's
the
like
playing game for you then, man. Like start the rise of the Golden Idol.
Oh yeah, so I'm gonna say the reason why the demo's on the list is because I've refused to buy it because I'm really busy and I knew that it would just take X hours, and I didn't feel like I had X hours to spend because I've had a really busy term.
Yep.
The term's over. I'm like 90% sure I'm going to buy the game, install it on the Steam Deck before I get on the fucking plane. Because it seems like ideal for the plane.
The one thing I would say is it on Mac? Because the one thing I'd say is I don't think I could play it on Steam Deck. I think it works best with the mouse.
Yeah. So that's actually
you're probably taking your laptop, aren't you? So
I've got my Surface.
Surface, sorry. Yeah, get it on. You'll get it on Steam. Get it on Steam, which you're gonna get.
So the thing is, I would get it on Steam, and if I hated it on the Steam Deck, I would play.
But on
more.
Surface,
DLC on Power Wash Simulator, which is apparently twice on my fucking list because I'm bad at lists. And then when I land, and go to my sister's house, I can put the Surface on the bed and type away.
Yeah.
But like,
no one begrudges you for putting that on your top 10.
No, absolutely not.
Great. It's one of the best.
But I just think like if you've not experienced these games, the first one's very good. I don't know all of the quality of life things, but in the same vein of why I picked Persona 3 to play this year and not one of the subsequent ones, it's a good. Curse of the Golden Idol is so good that even if there's quality of life improvements of Rise of the Golden Idol, I I don't think it like just in case those quality of life matter. I think you just should buy the older one because I didn't feel encumbered by its game mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And if the full version of the Rise made something easier, I would hate for someone to be like finishing Rise and be like, "Oh, I want more," and go back to Curse and then be annoyed. It's just one of those things where
I think you could.
they're similar enough that I think you just start with the first one. Also, because of the way the Golden Idol plot, etc., like the notion of the Golden Idol works, if you just play the first one, which is probably on sale right now or will be, do that.
I think it will help you with some of the puzzles as well if you play the first game, then the second game. But by the way, if you have Netflix, they're both on there, and they probably work very well on like iPad.
If you have Netflix, they are part of the Netflix gaming package. I ended up buying it on Steam because I did not want to play it on my phone.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I mentioned when we were talking about it playing Rise on my phone, which I haven't got around to doing yet because actually I don't really want to.
I think it's a bad.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it's one of the worst.
But if you have no other way, and you
I think from the developer's point of view, I think it
probably
makes sense because they got a shit ton of money, presumably. But I don't think it's the best input mechanism. Anything that plays Netflix is not necessarily the best way to like navigate the game.
Yeah, fair.
No, but they put it out on everything. Fortunately, at the same time, unlike Monument Valley, which I want to play, might get Netflix over.
Anyway, that's my number X.
That's your number 3.
Number
3.
Number 3.
That was number 3.
Who's going?
My number 3.
Oh, that wasn't.
So that was Adil's number 3. My number 3 is a game which I think is going to be spoken about a bit higher up the list. My number 3 is Balatro. So
just we'll
hold that thought. And Lucy, come to you for your number 3, please.
How dare you? How dare you? Insulted. I can't even continue. It is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, we've talked about it. It's one of the best Metroidvania games that have ever come out.
Yeah.
Simply as. Like I spoke about Animal Well earlier on. That is just mostly exploration, and the revelations in Animal Well are really, really good, really fun. But for Metroidvania, for me, I need this. I need all 10 cc's of Prince of Persia, where it's platforming, exploration, combat, and this just does this insanely well. Like this is on the levels of like I think a lot of Metroidvanias have their own good things about them, like Metroid Dread. Like the exploration was kind of like it was more linear, and that was kind of disappointing about it. But the combat in that game was second to none. Like the animation, the fluidity of that game, it's just incredible. Hollow Knight like combat.
Guacamelee is always one I come back to for really
combat,
good Metroidvanias.
Yeah. Prince of Persia. It's one of those cliched things where it's like you just take all the good things out of all the last couple of Metroidvanias and stick them into one. But this is truly what that is, and still did its own like kind of inspiring and innovative things, like the mechanic where you can just press down on the D-pad and it takes a screenshot of wherever you are. So it's like, oh, I remember I need to get back to that point because there's like an blockable wall that I don't have the kind of ability to get to. And it's just like takes a screenshot of it, and it's like, why did no one ever think of this before? Like Hollow Knight was like, yeah, you can add like stamps and pins into it, and it's like every game since have done that. And then this takes it further. It's like it just takes a screenshot, and it's like, oh yeah, duh. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's just a shame that the team were disbanded because it's like I think this team could have gone on to make any other genre if they
Right.
nailed it with this so well. And it's like, you know, bingo card. I love my Metroidvanias. Like, if you're making one of the best Metroidvanias that have ever been made in the last 30 years, and you just disbanded, it's like this industry, you can win and still lose.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like, and it's gutting because this is, especially from Ubisoft, who are just crap in every single way. This is the best thing that
Wait,
they've
what?
done
What's
in
wrong with
probably
Ubisoft?
about
Hold on.
in probably about 25 years. I'm not even joking. This is probably the best thing that, other than like they, in fact, they did they own Splinter Cell back then? Probably not. Probably the best thing they've done in like 20 years.
Nice.
Legit.
So I will say both of your opinions on this game have made me like. So I have Uplay account. I have had like the urge to play some of these older games, and I've just not, and mostly because it's not that I want to play at Game X, but it's like I could also play literally
It's
1,000
Steam,
games I own on some other platform, and I just think Ubisoft has made it so I don't want so I know how these things work, and so it's like I don't want their metrics to think that I want to engage with their old games. And so when I want to play, so to be honest, I have a huge soft spot for the 2D Assassin's Creed games.
Oh yeah.
The China, Russia, India ones. I can't remember what they're actually called, right? And I think they're superbly well designed and a way of importing game mechanics from the 3D environment in a way that's like pretty seamless. And I've not played through them all. I played through most of the China one, and I literally think about those, and I'm like, nah, I'm not. I want to play this type of game. I fucking hate Ubisoft. And so I don't.
Like, it was Ubisoft Montpellier who made Lost Crown. I'm googling who made those Assassin's Creed games.
But basically, what I'm saying is this is the first time in the better part of a decade, probably,
Chronicles,
that I have felt like a first party / Ubisoft forward game, because these were always in the background, right? This is the first time I've been like intrigued by an Ubisoft game to the point where I'm like, oh, it sucks that given my stance, I feel weird about it. And I think that says more about Ubisoft than me.
Because I don't like Ubisoft as a company. What they're doing with games are just with the whole whatever's happening with that studio, which has been, I mean, one way or another, it's paying dividends. They're doing poorly, and they're just and they're looking for buyouts from the likes of Tencent, etc. Climax Studios made the 2.5D Chronicles games from India, China, Russia, or wherever.
Those are the ones I was thinking of.
Yeah, but I think Ubisoft Montpellier have made other decent games. Maybe they made that Rayman game that I thought was good the last couple of years. But yeah, it's a shame. But
it's one of those things
I'm glad we have this at least.
Yeah. So the point I was trying to make was not fuck Ubisoft, was like, given my fuck Ubisoft stance, the way you've described it, I'm like, oh, this is the first time I've actually cared about not being able to play given my stance.
Same.
That makes sense.
And I'll feel the same way if they bring back.
Right. And so again, it's not like trying to like broadcast my personal ethical stuff. It's like, oh, my stance was very easy because I didn't give a shit about most of the games they were putting out there, and now suddenly there's a good game, and it's like, this makes it more difficult.
I didn't buy it first of all, and that's why I debated talking about it on here, because
you're good. My point was just
so
like,
good. Those people deserve.
My point is, your glowing review makes it highlights the fact that it's very easy to have. It was very easy to have an anti-Ubisoft stance when they were just churning out shit.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Is like, oh, I didn't have to think about this for a couple of years. Like, I own some of these core Ubisoft games. I've had the hankering to play an Assassin's Creed game, or the modern Assassin's Creed. What is the fucking name of that thing? Guy with the hat, hacker dude. That series, the hacker dude, Assassin's Creed series.
Watch Dogs.
Yeah, Watch Dogs.
Aiden Pierce, how could you forget?
With his iconic hat.
Yes. And like, I could easily navigate the world and not give a shit because they didn't have much pressure. But actually, the 2D, like, Prince of Persia doing interesting things, it's like, oh, you're making an interesting game. Again, I will be okay with my ethical opinions, but it was super easy when it was like Far Cry X / Assassin's Creed Y, and it's just the same bullshit. It's like, oh, well, I don't give a shit about these games. It's very easy for me to write them off and not care.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is it's a reflection of whichever sub studio actually made this game to make it compelling and interesting and having good game mechanics in the face of Ubisoft's usual dreck that people actually have to think about, oh, I actually want to play this game, and my ethics might interfere with that, versus most of the past 10 years in Ubisoft, if you didn't like Ubisoft, you'd just be like, I don't care, and I don't want to play this anymore.
To be honest, mate, I've loved Prince of Persia since the original game, and it's a Metroidvania, so it doesn't take much from me. But I know what you're saying.
But like, my point is, even if you weren't a big
putting out garbage for the past 10 years.
We can have a whole episode. We can have a whole episode on Ubisoft. Let's roll into. We
talked about it before, and as I said, I debated talking about it. I don't want to reiterate it again, especially now that team's disbanded. So it's like screw Ubisoft once again. It's just an incredible. But I just wanted to say it's just an incredible Metroidvania game, one of the best of all time. So
actually, I think that's super important because you don't want to. I think it's really easy to cast doubt on a game because of its publisher, even when the developer is a subsidiary. But like that game was born out of
they are wholly Ubisoft.
They
were. Let's say.
That's what I'm saying. But they were born out of a specific team who wasn't the shitty people at Ubisoft.
Done. No more chat. We've got more games to talk about. Number twos. Adil. Number 2, please.
This is just for Lucy. It's Magic the Gathering in person, not online. I have played on a weekly basis. Gosh, fuck off. Bounces off of the video.
Instantly gone.
I have played on a weekly basis with friends of mine Magic the Gathering, the card game, and not the digital version of the card game. And I own too many cards, and so for the first chunk of time, I gave cards, and then because new sets came out, it was like, oh, if we all buy a pre-release pack, we could just, even though we're not going to a pre-release event, we can just on a Monday night. There's a pub in town who just has an upstairs. They never open on Monday nights, and they just let us go there.
Nice, yeah.
And then we get to play. But that means for the 1 week, it was do the pre-releases. Pre-release decks are for 40 cards. And then it was, oh, well, now that you're around and you've bought more cards from the format, we can play 60 card decks. And then now we've moved to the 100 card deck Commander, which is the standard casual format. But the reason is that we could do that is, one, I'm building decks because I love deck building, and so I can just here's a deck I think you will like. And the other part is they've now accrued enough cards they can start building decks themselves, and then I will just they're building on sets 1 and 2, so I will build around those sets, because obviously I have a shit ton of cards that like are very powerful, etc. But the whole point is like, if you are stuck to 2 sets, I will just build a deck that way. But basically, I'm just reminding myself that like gaming with people is a thing I really value. And like, if you are a long-run fan of the podcast, you will know that at one point, Bet and I had like a couch co-op series. And one of the reasons why that was a limited run was because it's real hard in the modern age to get 2 people in a room to do a thing. And so I have to acknowledge that like these people are people who are very new to the game. And I'm just gonna, this is no like touting my own horn. I've played enough of the game. I know the mechanics better than everyone else in the room. I will see connections. But we all go into the room and we do the thing.
Yeah.
And like one of the ways of like limiting my knowledge being a boon is to play like this like limited constricted, like you can only make deck 4 of the past 2 sets. But they have absorbed 2 or 3 sets, and like Joel is an optimizer. He's a computer scientist, so he's now on Skyfall, which is the standard resource for looking things up, and he just like is trying to find he has a deck that he won't tell me about because he wants it to be a surprise when we play Commander format. And I was like, this is exactly what I've wanted. And weirdly, when I live in Bristol and people played Magic more regularly, they didn't like lean into. This is super interesting. Basically, if you look at games I play on the regular, outside of the New York Times and Minute Cryptic, I've played Magic on paper more this year than I have in any year I think the podcast has run.
Right.
Because I have found people who want to play it. Why I like Magic is the Magic : The Gathering. And I have a gathering on a weekly basis.
Nice. Yeah.
And like the arena client, the digital version, will never replicate that. It's great. And so that's why, like, of the gaming I've done this year, the most interesting and fruitful and edifying, whatever you want to say it, has been that.
Yeah, that's fair.
When are you flying to Guyana and making everyone drink like Vault City because they believe they're getting on the Magic the Gathering rocket ship to heaven?
Lucy, you're asking that as if it hasn't already been
done. Let's move on from that one. My number 2 is say no surprise, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh.
No,
that
came out at the start of the year. Absolutely. I spent a long time with it. I've put like 80, 90 hours into it.
Wow.
I really like it. It's
so just to be clear, this isn't Final Fantasy VII The Placenta. It's like
Remake Part 2, which they decided to call Rebirth instead.
If there was a placenta, now it has a twin.
Exactly. Yes, this is exactly what it is. That lives in some odd swamp place. Like it's Final Fantasy VII. I've liked the reimagining of Final Fantasy VII. I enjoyed Remake. I've enjoyed Rebirth as well. There's lots of there will be a third one coming out. Yes, I can't remember what that's called. Reunion maybe or something like that.
No, because this feels like the sophomore slump almost. Because it just, I know it's your number 2, Ben. It just feels like there was a lot less further about
there was absolutely, but it's a solid game. Like it builds on Remake really, really well. It adds in a bunch of additional stuff. It expands on areas of the original game that feel natural to have expanded on as well. Not just like we need more stuff here. It's there is a little bit of that, but that's not necessarily in the locations and the additional stories that they try to tell. That's more in the we've made this semi-open world, so here is some semi-open world stuff to go and do like monster hunting a little bit, and these odd little side quests that will kind of make you do as well. But a lot of that, they've kind of done it in a way that you can absolutely optimize the way that you run around one of these kind of maps. That actually you can be like, cool, I'm gonna go to the southwest of this map, and I'm going to do things 1, 2, and 3. Great. Now I'm going to go to the northwest because that's a continuation from the southwest, and I'm going to do numbers 4, 5, and 6. Then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this and do this. There's absolutely an optimization of that. My playthrough of it is not the optimized version because there's a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of bouncing around based on what I've discovered, what I need to do, and where I need to go. Right. But it's more Cloud and the gang and the story kind of around that.
Cloud and the gang enjoy, is exactly what they should have called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
And just had like Cool and the Gang.
Exactly, just playing in the background. Completely. Just a straight rip-off of that, absolutely.
Or just like orchestral sounds of Cool and the Gang.
An AI-generated remake.
Jesus.
But yeah, I mean, the first game was... I remember you lot talking about it, and I remember looking at it. It's like, this seems good, and like, especially for people who like that game, the original. So it's like it's hard to reach those highs again because the statement that was.
Well, I think
to know that it's still like, still continuing on that really good gameplay and stuff.
Absolutely.
And story. That's good.
Yeah, completely. Lucy, number 2, please.
Yeah, my number 2 is Tactical Breach Wizards.
I knew that was going to be on the list, and I'm very happy. Mostly because I haven't got around to getting to it, and your original glowing review was like, if this isn't on the top 10, she lied to me in this episode. So, like, the only reason, like, I honestly... The glowing feedback I've read from other people, and specifically from you, the only reason it's not on my list is I downloaded it, but didn't open it, and I just know it's such a solid game.
Again, it's one of those games you'll waste the time that's a little bit too valuable at the moment to do. Yeah.
This is why I didn't open it. I was afraid of it. I was afraid of it in the best possible way.
Yeah. Yeah, fair.
Agreed.
Lucy,
because it's very much your kind of game.
Yeah. In 2 minutes, Lucy, why is it at number 2?
It's a. Good. I'm not. Yes, it is good, but it's not. The thing is, I think what's becoming more and more apparent is that I do like tactical games. You know, RPG. Okay, I don't like real-time strategy. I don't think I ever will.
Oh no! So this is what we figured out with whatchamacallit, the time travel puzzle game.
Yes, I know what you're on about. We're going to spend the whole 2 minutes.
No, let's not. Let's not.
You finish your thought.
Lucy, yes, go on.
The little robot, futuristic, we're going to kill people game that I really enjoyed. And yes, this very much reminds me of that. Which Adil will find out shortly.
Yeah. You keep talking, I'll get the thing.
But it's like, I like turn-based games. I think I truly always have. I just don't like how... Into the Breach, which is one of the best tactical games that have ever come out in the last 10 years, probably. I enjoy them. I just don't like the punishing aspect of them and the lack of freedom that you get. Whereas in Tactical Breach Wizards, you were given so much freedom. You were like, whatever move you make, you can try it out, test it out. You don't really have to commit until it's like, okay, do you want to commit this? And it's like, yeah, cool. So you're allowed to try anything. And in this game, like, anything truly does mean anything because it has that creative license where it is, when it says Tactical Breach Wizards, these are literally like wizards, like this someone on a broomstick. There are so many different I mean, you obviously have your typical like classes, like, you know, the tank and like the healer and stuff like that, but it is just like there's so many different like moves and aspects and upgrades to them. So it really plays around in that kind of creative space while still being kind of like in that genre. So, but it allows you to experiment and have freedom to what you want to try and do, and the game, lets you know it's like, yeah, just play around, just mess around, do what you want to do. There's no pressure to it. There's no roguelike aspects to it. Try a level as many times as you want. There are like additional levels where you can try and, you know, um, just go through those just as part of like just extra content. It's not pertinent to the story. It's not pertinent to upgrades. Upgrades are just doled out to you as you go through the story, which is incredibly good and incredibly funny writing, just excellent and very, character like kind of centric and based in like kind of the personalities and humanity and pathos of these characters, which is like, you don't usually get that. Like maybe in XCOM you can say like, oh, name a character your best friend or your family members, but you're not really getting a story about them. Whereas in this, it's just like that absolutely ties into the gameplay. The different scenarios, the story, what's happening in that story, and the different objectives in every single level. It's just one of a kind. Whereas like Into the Breach, let's say, it's a very good tactical game, but it is a roguelike, and you are pretty much doing the same thing every time.
Yep.
There are like different objectives to each levels, but it is just truly save the town and kill the
right, and that's actually why it's great. If you don't like or are unsure if you like these like sort of turn-based strategy things, Into the Breach is secretly just a puzzle game. With those mechanics. But if you enjoyed it, you realize, oh, there's an entire genre of game that I might enjoy. Like Into the Breach is the like gateway drug into things like XCOM.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't have to succumb to the gateway drug, but like, I really like it because it can be read as a puzzle game, and actually, it's one of the reasons why I was a big fan of the Netflix games when they were released, because it was like, I'm just gonna give everyone Into the Breach. And it was like, cool.
Most of it.
They might not know that this is a genre that a lot of people like try and get turned off of. They just get to play Into the Breach, and they're like, "Oh, this is fun. What else do I do?" And then they just like hit video games at large.
Yeah. It is absolutely a puzzle game, and it's the thing is that I've played many tactics games, RPGs over the years. I just don't like the punishing nature of some of them.
For sure, yeah.
Whereas this one, it just completely, just lets you free and go about your business.
Nice.
Try that. You can try anything.
Right.
But yeah, that's my number 2.
Perfect. Let's hit number ones then. I'm going to jump in because I think that the number ones for the both of you are very similar.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in with my number 1 first and declare that my favourite game this year is Astrobot.
Really? Oh, interesting.
It's just a fucking good game.
Are you surprised, Adele?
I thought that maybe Ben wasn't such a transparent fanboy motherfucker. That's all.
Oh, he wasn't.
I thought he would bury the lead. Whereas like PlayStation is like, I don't care what they release, but if it's exclusive, I'll just make it number 1.
He did. The Sony marketing tool was not from Ben. Is that what you said? No.
Like I get that we're casual, but calling Ben the Sony marketing tool is a bit rude.
All I'm saying is that I didn't want to yuck anyone's yum.
When his yum is licking the taint of Sony, it's fine. Sorry, Ben, you were saying.
I have heard, however, that there is a devil dice. There is a devil dice Easter egg in that game. So I think we're the wrong ones. Astrobot may be the game of the year.
So
I think Ben is right.
all
It has a
joking
devil
aside,
dice.
given
It
that
has
I've
a devil
heard
dice.
your
There's a lot
first
of Easter eggs
impressions,
in this game.
I'm super curious as to. So I know your first impressions. I want to know why they've been like compounded. It's clear. It's this.
It's solid gameplay. It's absolutely solid gameplay. It's fun.
Solid snake gameplay?
Yes, there is a solid snake in this game.
I knew because it's all references.
It's fun platforming. It's not the nostalgia element. It's not. It's a fun platforming game. It's got me to go back to I can't remember what the game is called, but it's not Little Big Planet. It's called like Sackboy Adventures or something.
Oh, I know
that came out a couple of years ago.
The non-Little Big Planet Sackboy.
Sackboy game. Yes, it's got me to think about Tearaway. It's got me to think about those kinds of platforming games. So slightly more family friendly ones, but the kind of platforming games where it's so much more simple and it's just easy and actually it's just really good fun. Sure, Astrobot has the whole PlayStation nostalgia tied into it as well, but it's got some really interesting ways that they've adapted those mechanics. So the way that you use kind of the Nathan Drake kind of skin, and you've got the gun, and the way that it allows you to maneuver around a different way. That your Kratos, and you've got the axe, and you
the actual skin of Nathan.
Yeah, I was just like, when you said skin, I also weirdly thought of Nathan Drake. Something about the turn of phrase Nathan Drake's skin weirdly doesn't like conjure up computer game skin. It conjures up he's been peeling off and then applied to something.
Flayed by
I actually hate the turn of phrase I used because peeled away and applied is gross.
Yeah, it just reminds me of being flayed and Astrobot.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's why my actual game of the year is Silent Hill 2, which I haven't played at all, but is all about flaying and skin and stuff. But yeah, it's just really good. It's just a really good game. I've really enjoyed it, and I've gone back to it. Right, they've released the speedrun levels. I went back to play all of those. They released this winter level as well last week. I went back and I instantly played that as well. It's just another level, another set of stuff. And
that sounds great.
Yeah, it's high praise for like a 3D platform.
Absolutely.
To be honest, like if it's that good, then I mean I do, as I say, not just because there's a devil dice Easter egg in there, but it's because like Mario Odyssey, which was the 3D platformer of the Switch, I think it came out the first year that the Switch came out. And whilst this is how I think I'll feel about Astrobot, whereas like it's incredibly polished, but there's also something so soulless about Mario Odyssey,
right?
Where it's like it's so perfect, it's so polished. Where it's just like this is not even by committee, but like people who are just like got scalpels and lasers making this game, and that's how I sort of feel that maybe Astrobot will be to me, because it's like this is. I hate to say it, but it is a marketing tool. This is
very much.
Same with every Astrobot game with the this is our tentpole VR game. This is what it is, and I don't mean that to take away from your enjoyment or take away from the game. I just feel that that's how I may perceive it.
Yes,
like the same way I did Mario Odyssey.
And I think that's a valid way of perceiving
it. Yeah, this is the tentpole game of the Switch. This is what the Switch has to offer, and this is our game, and this is why it's perfect, and this is why I kind of don't think it's great. But I do want to experience Astrobot for all the things that you said.
So
because
what I will say,
not just marketing, sorry, not just callbacks. It is just really good platforming.
Yes.
What I will say is, given that Mario Odyssey was on my honorable mentions, the reason wasn't because of the inherent gameplay. It was because I could play it with someone who was discovering bits about Mario that they hadn't experienced.
You want to talk Mario, the one that came out this year?
No, Wonder.
Oh, sorry, not Odyssey. Wonder.
Mario Wonder,
yeah.
Sorry, my bad. I said Odyssey, I meant Wonder. And I feel like that's exactly the disconnect that you're sort of espousing is Ben's saying there's something here, and the responses are kind of, oh, no one's cared about the something here. It just is there something that we can kind of hitch ourselves against, and
possibly,
is that enough?
Possibly it is a bit tainted by the proximity it has to be in. This is all Sony, but I think there's greatness in that because I like PlayStation nostalgia. I heard that for the 30th anniversary they had a thing on the PlayStation where you could just download the startup menu from the PlayStation 1. I was just like, yeah, that would be great.
My current PS5 startup is the PS2 startup.
Yeah. I'd
Why
love
wouldn't
that.
it be?
Yep.
Yeah. So there is something inherently attached to that which makes it great, and maybe something also maybe a little bit curated and sinister, but I don't think but it's like those two don't you can take enjoyment from your nostalgia of it, and you don't have to completely
right.
I think I'm just talking from someone who's just seen it from the outside and just like
fair.
Not experience it myself, and I'll probably eat my words and say, look, there's a Devil Dice Easter egg, and it's the best game of the year. Best game of the century.
I'm going to just say my game, and I suspect Lucy will have
Let's round out this episode with number ones.
We don't need to talk. I mean, Ben's wrong.
Yeah, no,
I was,
I don't know how Ben had it on a list and it existed not here, but it's fucking Balatro, motherfucker!
You just ended there. Like.
And I was kind to the editor who isn't me this week because I covered my mouth. It's Balatro, motherfuckers. I'm sorry, the game's just... So, I have worked in development. I have, etc. It's 60 megs, and it's clearly the best game of the year. I fucking love it all on, like, so many vectors, because the fact that even if you don't think it's the best game of this year, the fact that it gets close and not being any of the bullshit that the industry claims is needed is so important in our current, like, mid-capitalist collapse landscape. It's a dude who made a game. It fucking rocks. It doesn't take a lot of space, and sure, it might be able to be optimized. It doesn't matter. It's 60 megs. You can run it on. You can run 17 versions of it on one fridge. It's so slim.
And the thing is,
no one cares because it's not about fidelity. And I think the best part is it's a game based on poker that has no gambling mechanics, despite the fact that the few detractors give a shit because they thought it was about encouraging gambling. The game is random chance. The game.
Yes.
There is no gambling. There's no way to bet on things. It just uses the poker hands to do the thing. It's fucking great. And it has been consistently
Right. We won't get into my thoughts on Balatro, which I've been playing a lot in the last couple of weeks.
Should.
No, we haven't got time. I need to go to bed. Lucy, can you launch into your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll close that. Yeah. Poker is something that. What did you say?
I said Ben's wrong.
I mean, yeah, we all know this, but we won't linger on that. Yes, as Adil said, I love games that just riff on something that is, so beholden to so many people. I love poker. I learned it, played it at school. Probably the only reason why I passed statistics because I was learning poker at the same time. But it's one of those where it's just not falling out of favor, but it's I'm probably not in the same kind of social groups that I was at sixth form, uni. Don't play poker now. Maybe play a bit online. Obviously not for money because I'm not insane. But just something that I had not engaged with for ages. Despite having a physical poker set and stuff like that. And then it's just brought it back. All my memories of why I love poker. it's sort of like Zach Gage's really bad chess. Like chess is
Oh yeah.
another thing that I
Oh,
learned
that's
as
a
a
really
kid,
good example. Yeah,
and it's like it just changed like my perception of chess and put a new, you know, perspective and dimension to it. And this has done that for me, like Balatro has done that for poker for me. And it's just like taking that base level game, which is fantastic already, and then just making it with so many different dimensions and variables and stuff like that, and just being a really smart game, like right out of the gates. It hasn't needed like any updates, any patches to make things that it's just like everything that poker players and non-poker players alike can just sink their teeth into, and something that's just so clever. Like the first time, I don't know if you're here, Ben, but I don't care about spoiling it for you, but like the first time that you like play a hand that's like five of a kind, and it's
yeah.
just like this is not a thing in poker, but
Yes.
it is in Balatro, and it's
Yes.
so in smart. Or
That is
like,
such a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or when, and it's just like it's just mind blowing for someone who's like you're in the parameters of poker, and that's all you've ever played, all you've ever known, because that is just like such a defined game, and then it just completely flips things, or even stuff less to do with the game of poker, and it's like, oh, all these really bastard like bosses, or
Yeah.
how they change the mechanics, or like, oh, we're gonna this boss that like kind of flips all your cards on your deck, and you can't see
You
them.
can't see them.
And then you
Absolutely. Yeah.
and then you find like little ways of cheating that. This game
Yep.
is all about cheating and breaking the system, where it's like, oh, if I keep
Optimizing
like
isn't cheating.
if I keep like a like kind of gosh, what are they called? Like the the cards that make that like change your
Wild
deck
cards?
into like, yeah, is it the wild cards or the
The tarot.
tarot
Oh,
cards, where
tarot
it's
cards.
like,
Yeah.
oh, it, which changes your cards, and it's
Yeah.
like you go to that boss and everything's flipped around,
Yeah.
and you use one of those cards, you keep one of those on hand, and then you use that, and then
You
the
own them.
natural mechanic of it changing those cards, and they flip around
Yep.
as they change, and you can have a look at that whilst you're facing that boss, and it's like, oh, you thought you cheated me. It's like, oh no, I figured out how to cheat this boss back.
Yeah, I think I might have double
the
cheated
difficulty.
you, and one of those cheats was on me, but I'm still one up. That's like the best moment of Balatro. Was like realizing like the flexibility.
I think there's
and like this is
why
I wanted to like emphasize that it. First of all, there's no actual gambling mechanics, but also the like poker framing is a subterfuge for. You might like honestly, I think the guy designed it with this in the sense of these are like a minimal set of like winning conditions that you will understand from outside of this game, and then we're gonna build mechanics where, right, like the whole point of Balatro is not like so. The best like advice, quote unquote, I got was make the best if you're new at Balatro and you haven't unlocked a bunch of things. Make the best 2-pair hand you can. Because I sort of like jumped over this like useful like moment, but that meant that the next thing I like didn't quite know what the game's restrictions were. But if you just like make literally the baseline poker hand, and you'll aim for it because of all the wild cards, etc. You're like you get such a fundamental understanding of what Balatro can do, because actually with the right like flips, 2-pair hand will beat the like base game, if you want to call it that. Like if you just like focus on it and you have a couple good draws, you will beat the standard like escalation.
Yeah, it's a good way of
through that you get an understanding of what the fuck the game is trying to like.
Yeah, this is not my issue with it but it is one of the factors that I bump up against quite a lot. It is the random number generator of draws and the cards that come out, which is very much to do with poker. There's a deck.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that deck is set straight away or whether actually each discard or each hand then it plays, because I have had instances where I feel like the deck is working against me. I've got a card that multiplies 3 of a kind, a card that multiplies like a pair. And then suddenly I'm just getting a straight. I'm getting an individual card of each number that is coming through. I'm like, how the fuck am I doing this right? I'll play a hand rather than discarding, which is that straight. I've already leveled that up. Bam, 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 bam. Fine. It's not the massive, 40,000 point hand that I'm looking for to get past this higher blind, but it is like a 10,000 point hand. Yeah. Great. That chips away at it. Fine. Right. Oh, I've now just drawn 2 pair. Okay. And I've leveled that up once, and I don't have any cards that multiply that. It's not in the run that I'm kind of doing.
Yeah.
I either need to discard other hands to try and get a full house because actually I've got a multiplier of that in some kind of way. Like it's puzzle mechanics, but with this RNG element to it, which kind of feels like it works against it slightly.
No, Ben. I will fight against you so much about that. Because I agree with that in every other roguelike RNG game, whereas this game gives you a way out even when you're 7 runs deep.
Ooh, okay.
It does.
This is exactly why I love the game.
Yes, this is why this is the best roguelike, because you don't feel trapped into that kind of run. It's why I like Slay the Spire, but I didn't like Slay the Spire because it was like, if I don't have that optimized build, same with Dead Cells.
Yeah.
If I don't have that optimized build, I am done. I might as well restart. Whereas with Balatro, you can persist, and you can still.
Interesting, because I don't feel like that at all.
So the key is
depending on how far you were in or how many hours you in, you won't feel like that. Give it a few more hours. I am six things in. I don't have any multipliers. I am still just on plus so many this and plus so many chips, plus so many multiplier. I have no multipliers.
You're playing the bare bones acceleration.
And then everything can change, just like that. And you're like,
the game is like
things and possibilities.
Phenomenally well designed.
I think you're just early in, Ben.
Yeah.
You will see the light.
Why am I?
You will drink the Kool-Aid. You will join us in Guyana.
Anyway.
I'm currently 8 hours in.
Yeah. That's that.
Mate, you've not scratched the surface. Try 100 hours on Steam Deck and 100 hours on mobile phone, and maybe you'll get somewhere.
All right, fair enough. Okay, I need to put 200 hours into this game before it becomes game of the year.
Turns out, apparently, to have an opinion on Balatro, according to Tanked Up, you need to actually do the reps. Because we are incels.
What a good place to finish.
You've only played 100 hours of Balatro? What the fuck is wrong with you?
What a good place to finish out our episode for this week.
It's a fucking great game.
Absolutely.
I will say, I've recommended it to people who play games really randomly. So Ben, the Hop Knocker, doesn't have a lot of time. And he has put some time into it and he enjoyed it. And I think that's really important because it's a game that you could sink hours and hours and hours of your life in. But the reason why you are susceptible to that is because the initial hours are also really well designed. I think that's why it's my game of the year this year. Outside of pure hours spent is the fact that I've recommended to people who don't play games. And they played 4 hours or 2 hours. And the thing is, they enjoyed those hours, and they didn't feel robbed because they didn't get to the deeper gameplay that we are making fun of Ben for not getting to, or whatever, right? It's fine because the game is really well designed, so it scales. And I think that's
made fun of you two for your first 2 picks, and now we're pissing on Ben because he loves Astrobot, which seems like an incredibly well-made game. This is the
Astrobot is just a toilet in space. He's Pissbot.
It's piss of the year. I apologize. I love you both, and both all of your games.
I love you both, but I don't respect your opinions.
And with that, thank you very much for joining us.
Agreeing with me. I just want to make it clear that if she didn't agree with me, I would fucking not care.
If you'd like to let us know your game of the year, you can do so. And again, we may discard it out of hand. It may be the same one that we want, but it's gone completely. We won't return to the beers. They're the beers we've drunk this episode.
I like my beers.
Yes, if you're this deep into the episode with us, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for being with us for another year. We are hitting 10 years next year. Shit. We'll do something. Who fucking knows? Probably just drink more.
I will come back to the West.
We'll find somewhere to sit down together in person and just get.
No, I just said I would come to the West. I didn't say I would
not see us. Yeah, absolutely. Just in an old flat somewhere or something like.
I'll stand in the street corner and be like, "Yeah, it sucks. I'm lonely." And
it's
you guys
cold.
are like, "We were hanging out at a pub." I'm like, "I didn't consent to that." Sorry,
it's February.
I'm
it's
hijacking
raining.
it with hypotheticals.
But yes, hit us up at TacticCast on the socials. Go to outoflives.net. Do all of those things. You know, if you're still with us, you know all of that sort of shit. But just from me, thank you for being with us for another year. Thank you for sticking with us for our game of the year for 2024. And to Lucy and Adil, thank you very much. I love you both. It's been another amazing year of not games. The games have been alright, but it's been amazing hanging out with both of you and chatting about shit.
I will reiterate what I think I started last year, which was like noting how much time had passed and how much like we had observed together, and just say, look, listener, I like you, but I love these two. If you didn't listen, I'd still do this because I love these two people. And so,
absolutely.
Like, my main like impetus is hanging out with my friends. I'm glad you guys can come along, but I love these guys. And I think everyone should just know that that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Yeah.
So with
that's
that,
why I said it at the top of the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll start with it. We'll end with it. Thank you very much for joining us. We have been Tanked Up for 2024, and we will see you again next year. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao.
www.outoflives.net